Chapter 2607 Daoist Cave Abode. Lu Ming was about to fly toward the righteous army when a terrifying saber light slashed at him. The saber beam was pale and terrifying. Before it even reached him, Lu Ming's heart was beating rapidly, and the hair on his body stood on end. It was dangerous, extremely dangerous. This was definitely an extremely terrifying existence that had made a move. His strength far exceeded that of a 6th-level Void G. Oh. D realm. In fact, it was not just a 7th-level Void G. Oh. D realm. A terrifying person had his eyes on Lu Ming. Not good. Lu Ming could only think about it for a year. It was too late to defend. At this moment, Xiao appeared on Lu Ming's left side. It transformed into a shield and blocked his way. Boom. That saber light slashed onto Xiao's body and directly pierced through the shield that Xiao had transformed into. However, Xiao had already absorbed most of the saber light's power. The remaining power was very limited and its speed had been greatly reduced. Lu Ming finally reacted and swept his meteor spear, sweeping it across the saber light and blocking it. Ball. Lu Ming's heart tightened. Xiao had been pierced through. Would it be all right? The next moment, Lu Ming heaved a sigh of relief. Xiao's body turned into a ball again. It jumped and returned to Lu Ming's shoulder as if nothing had happened. This fellow is really awesome, Lu Ming sighed in his heart. He then sped up and rushed toward the people of the righteous army. There's actually such a treasure. Not far away, a silver-haired old man was staring at Xiao with a burning gaze. The silver-haired old man held a silver saber in his hand. He was the one who had slashed out with the saber just now. He moved his body and charged at Lu Ming at top speed. At this moment, Lu Ming had already met up with the people from the righteous army. Close to 300 people gathered together like a sharp knife. They charged out with all their strength. Kill. More than 1,000 people from the Yuanluo Palace surrounded Lu Ming and his group, launching attacks at them. Lu Ming was also in the crowd. He waved his long spear and blocked the attacks from all directions. Brat die. The silver-haired elder had his eyes on Lu Ming. He kept slashing his silver saber at Lu Ming. Fortunately, Xiao transformed into a shield and protected Lu Ming's vital points. It blocked the other party's attack. Otherwise, Lu Ming would most likely be in danger. Charge. The people of the righteous army charged forward with all their might, and some of them had even burned their divine power. Although the righteous army kept dying in battle, it was effective. After a while, they finally broke out of the encirclement and flew toward the vast ocean. Don't chase, that matter is more important. A 9th-level Void G. Oh. D realm expert stopped the others and came to the center of the Qinjin mine. It should be here. Everyone gather your strength and break open this mine vein. A 9th-level Void G. Oh. D realm expert ordered. Yes. Thousands of people from the Yuanluo Palace gathered and attacked at the same time. One after another they attacked the Qinjin or vein. Boom. The old gold mine rumbled and shattered rocks flew everywhere. However, the people from the Yuanluo Palace didn't even look at it. Their goal didn't seem to be the Qinjin mine. Lu Ming and the group flew at high speed. After flying for more than 100,000 miles, they slowed down when they realized that the people from the Origin Luo Palace were not chasing after them. Detestable. Many people roared. This time the losses were too great. Out of the original 400, only about 200 were left. It was a huge loss. This time they didn't expect that the Origin Luo Palace would suddenly gather such a strong force to attack the old gold mine. Send the news to the 7-Star Island. We must take revenge for this. Someone gritted his teeth and then sent the news to the 7-Star Island. Boom. At this moment, a pillar of light shot up into the sky from afar, piercing through the clouds. Everyone looked in that direction in shock. That direction was clearly the direction of the Qinjin mine. It's at the Qinjin mine. What's going on? Some people were extremely puzzled. Such a shocking phenomenon. We can clearly see it from 100,000 miles away. There must be a rare treasure, a cave abode of a powerhouse or some historical site. Someone made a guess. It must be so. I understand now. The Origin Luo Palace must have gotten some information. Their original purpose was to get the Qin gold mine. The previous attack on 7-Star Island was just an illusion. Someone shouted. Everyone's heart moved. Perhaps it was true. The attack on Seven Star Island by the Yuanluo Palace might have been an illusion to confuse them. Not only could they restrain the forces on Seven Star Island, but they could also lure away some experts from the Qin gold mine. Then the Yuanluo Palace could concentrate their forces and occupy the Qin gold mine in one fell swoop. This won't do. Quickly report this matter to the higher-ups, report it to the general. Someone immediately used a voice transmission jade talisman to send out the news. Then they decided to send people to the Qinjin mine to check out the news. At this moment the Qinjin mine had completely changed. The mine vein disappeared and a hole was revealed under it. A beam of light shot out of the hole and soared into the sky. It only disappeared after half an hour. A deity's cave abode. Haha, there really is a deity's cave abode. Quick, send the news to the hallmaster. One of the burly men laughed madly. The others were also full of smiles, their eyes shining with a fiery light. A deity's cave abode. This was a cave abode left behind by a deity. It was simply unimaginable. The chaotic astral river is vast and boundless. There are countless cultivators and countless divine spirits who have reached the void Ji realm. However, there were only a handful of people in history who could cultivate to the heavenly Ji level. Currently, the divine realm expert known to the public was the master of the Yunfeng Pavilion, the most powerful force in the chaotic astral river. He was the only known heavenly Ji in the chaotic astral river. One could only imagine how valuable a cave abode left behind by a heavenly God was. Even if the God of heaven had left some useless things in the cave, they were all supreme treasures to others. The people of the Yuanluo Palace immediately spread the news. Not only did they inform the palace master, but they also gathered more experts of the palace. Not long after, groups of experts flew over from the sky. They were all experts from the Yuanluo Palace. They had gathered here to increase the strength of this place. 100,000 miles away, there was a group of people from the righteous army who had gathered with Lu Ming and the rest. They had sent out information about the other party's location. What's going on? Someone from the righteous army asked. The Qinjin mine was ambushed by the Origin Luo Palace. They sent out more than 1,000 hollow realm cultivators and more than 200 of us were killed. Only these few managed to escape. Someone explained helplessly. And the Yuanluo Palace. Someone from the righteous army who came later roared. Why did the Yuanluo Palace attack the Qinjin mine? Someone asked. There should be some rare treasures on Qinjin Island. As soon as one of them explained, a few figures flew over from the distance. They were the few people who had been sent to observe the Qinjin mine. A cave has appeared in the Qinjin mine, and a large number of experts from the Yuanluo Palace have gathered there. One of the people who went to inquire about the news said. Chapter 2608 Perfect Teeth. What? Cave dwelling, so that's how it is. It must be the cave dwelling of an expert. The people of the Yuanluo Palace must be after this cave. They can forget about monopolizing it. Well, wait here for the general and then we'll kill our way back. All right. The Jingtian army was shocked to hear that there was a cave dwelling in the Qinjin mine. They had been excavating the ancient gold mine for so many years, but they had not found anything. Immediately, the people of the Righteous Sky Army began to wait. Old gold mine. Some of you will stay outside to guard the place. The rest will follow me in and explore the place first. A tall NSTU. RDY old man instructed. Yes. Everyone bowed and accepted the order. They looked at the old man with respect in their eyes. That was because this old man was a top expert of the Yuanluo Palace, a terrifying true D expert. Every true D was a top expert in the Yuanluo Palace. They had the power to control a region and had the power to kill. Under the elders' arrangement, a group of people from the Yuanluo Palace stayed outside the cave while the rest followed the elder down. 100,000 miles away, Lu Ming and the rest were waiting quietly. Lu Ming was also sitting cross-legged on the sea to rest. Crack, crack. At this moment, Qiu opened its mouth wide and bit down hard. Its eyes were staring straight in the direction of the Qin gold mine. What do you want to do? Lu Ming asked. Crack, crack. Qiu's mouth continued to close and its teeth clattered. It even extended a tentacle and pointed in the direction of the Qin gold mine, revealing a look of desire. You want to go to the Qinjin mine? Lu Ming asked. Prek. Prek. Xiao's round body rolled a few times. All right, I'll go with you, but be careful. Lu Ming pondered for a moment. He was also quite curious and wanted to see what was going on with the cave dwelling in the Qinjing mine. Xiao transformed into a bangle and wore it on Lu Ming's hand. Lu Ming did not tell anyone and headed to the Qinjing or vein alone. The distance of 100,000 miles was covered in a short while. So many experts. As he neared the ancient gold mine, Lu Ming discovered that there were at least a few thousand origin Luo Hall powerhouses on the island. With so many experts, it's impossible to approach them head-on. What should we do? That's right, from the sea. Lu Ming's eyes lit up. He dived into the sea and kept diving. He dived to a depth of 1,000 meters and then approached Qinjing Island. There was no one from the Yuan Luo Palace guarding the sea because the entire island was filled with ancient gold mines. They were not worried. Very soon, Lu Ming arrived at the bottom of Qinjing Island. When it arrived, Xiao flew out and opened its mouth wide, biting down on Qinjing Dao. Whoosh! Xiao's speed was very fast. Very quickly, a large hole was bitten in Qinjing Dao. It continued to push in and soon a Pa's sage appeared. Lu Ming's eyes lit up. Perhaps they could use this to enter Qinjindo's cave abode. Lu Ming revealed a look of joy and followed closely behind Xiao. An NBSBKKK. Xiao's speed became faster and faster as it headed deeper into the island. Originally, Qinjindo's mine vein was extremely hard. Even an expert would find it difficult to dig a tunnel. It would also cause a huge commotion and the experts of the Yuan Luo Palace on the island would notice. However, Xiao's gnawing of the Qin gold mine did not seem to cause any movement. After an unknown amount of time, Xiao, be careful. There's movement ahead. Lu Ming said in a low voice. That was because a series of rumbles came from the front. It seemed like a great battle was happening. Xiao slowed down a little. When its mouth bit on those mineral veins, there was no sound at all. A moment later, the mine vein seemed to have been dug through, revealing a gap. Lu Ming looked outside through the gap and took in the scenery outside. Outside there was a huge building made of a kind of black rock. It was so huge that one couldn't see the end of it. At the very front of the building there was a huge door. At this moment a group of people were bombarding the door. However, it was obvious that there was a formation set up at the gate. There were rays of light shining and the group of people kept bombarding it, but they could not break the formation at all. One of the elders had an extremely terrifying aura. Each of his moves was extremely powerful and bombarded the array of the gate. What a terrifying expert. Lu Ming was secretly shocked. Even though there was still a long distance between them, the aura that the elder emitted still made him apprehensive. The Yuan Luo Palace already has such a terrifying expert. This cave is definitely not a small matter. Lu Ming pondered in his heart. However, the experts of the Yuan Luo Palace kept attacking, but they couldn't break the formation. And the defensive power of this formation is too strong. Even the surrounding walls are protected by the formation. We can't break it at all. Now we can only wait for the palace master and the others to come and find a way to break it. After bombarding for a while, the old man stopped and said unhappily. The people from the Yuan Luo Palace were helpless and could only stop and wait. Xiao, let's leave. Lu Ming whispered to Xiao. Then Xiao changed its direction and left the place. It then approached the building. Not long after, the mine vein disappeared and a dark wall blocked them. This wall was the wall of the building. Lu Ming took out a divine combat sword and slashed the wall. However, there was not a single mark. The stone material of this wall is very special. It's hard and immortal. There's also the power of a great formation on it, so it's impossible to break it. It seems that we can only stop here. Lu Ming sighed. This cave abode was able to attract so many people from the Yuan Luo Palace, so it must be extraordinary. If they could sneak in and obtain some treasures, they would definitely make a fortune. Lu Ming was also tempted, but unfortunately he could not enter. Right at this moment, Xiao opened its mouth wide and started biting the wall. Bang! A small piece of the wall was bitten off. This works too. Lu Ming was dumbfounded and tongue-tied. There was a formation on the wall that even the terrifying old man from the Yuan Luo Palace couldn't break, but Xiao could. This directly ignored the formation. Now Lu Ming only had one feeling. Xiao's teeth were too sharp. Crack, crack. Xiao bit down with all its might. Although it wasn't biting very fast and could only bite off a small piece each time, if this continued it would definitely be able to bite through the wall and enter the building. Lu Ming was waiting with antic 1-P-ation. At this moment, more and more powerhouses from Qin Jin's branch of the Yuanluo Palace were gathering. And 100,000 miles away, there were more and more powerhouses in the righteous army. However, neither side made a move. They were also waiting for the arrival of the strongest experts from both sides. Chapter 2609. Sneaking in. The headquarters of the Yuanluo Palace was located on a huge planet. There was a huge city on this planet. In a large hall in the city, two figures were discussing some matters. One of them was a middle-aged man who looked similar to Kong Long. He was the Yuanluo Palace Master Kong Ji. The other person was an old man with 3 eyes on his forehead and long golden hair. He was also a member of the 3-eyed race, the same race as the non-human divine ancestor. This elder's status in the Yuanluo Palace was extraordinary. He was the supreme elder and was extremely powerful. He was on the same level as the Yuanluo Palace Master. His name was Mo Kan. The two of them were the strongest in the Yuanluo Palace. The deity's abode. I didn't think that there would really be a deity's abode on the northern Shang planet. The 3-eyed race's elder Mo Kan's eyes were burning with pus. Shaun. I originally thought that it would at most be a real G.O.D.S. cave dwelling. I didn't expect that it would be a heavenly G.O.D.S. cave dwelling. This is a huge opportunity. The eyes of the palace master of the Yuanluo Palace were burning with desire. Hallmaster, the righteous army's Fa Ming has probably received the news as well. He's probably rushing to northern Shang as well. Hell be a problem. Mo Kan frowned and said. Fei Ming was the ancestor of Technique's name. That ant from a small kiliacosm. If I had known this would happen, I would have killed him back then and we wouldn't have had to face this trouble now. At the mention of the ancestor of Technique, the eyes of the Yuanluo Palace Master were filled with killing intent. Unfortunately, he's already grown up. Even if the two of us join forces, we might not be able to kill him. Mo Kan said helplessly. Once we obtain the treasures in the deity's cave abode and increase our strength greatly, we'll definitely kill him. Moreover, I already have a plan this time. That old man Fu Heng still owes me a favor. I've already sent him a voice transmission. I'll go and delay Fa Ming for a while. The Hall Master of the Yuanluo Hall said. Hall Master is wise. With Fu Heng helping I can rest shirt. Hall Master, let's go. Mo Kan was overjoyed. Let's go. Together with Mo Kan, the Yuanluo Hall Master led a group of experts toward the North Shang planet. Jingtian Army, Jingtian Star. An expert's cave? It's worth the attention of the Yuanluo Palace. Let's go and take a look. In a hall, the ancestor of Technique also received the news. He stepped out and was about to head to the teleportation array to the northern Shang planet. Brother Fa Ming, where are you going in such a hurry? At this moment an old voice was heard. A figure suddenly appeared in the sky. This figure was an old man with silver skin. He was obviously not human. The old man was wearing a long white robe. He stood on the clouds and smiled at the ancestor of Technique. Fu Heng. The ancestor of Technique frowned. Fu Heng, he said. What brings you here to the righteous army? Brother Fa Ming, it's been tens of thousands of years since we last met. I've come today to play a game of chess with you. Fu Heng smiled. Playing chess with me? I'm not free today. The ancestor of Technique said. I can only play this game today. If it were another day, I won't be able to play this game anymore. Fu Heng smiled and took a step forward. He came in front of the ancestor of Technique and blocked his way. Did Kong Ji ask you to come? The ancestor of Technique's face darkened. Back then I received a great favor from him. I have no choice but to return this favor. Fu Heng sighed. It seems that the cave abode on planet Northern Shang is no small matter. Kong Ji actually found you to delay me so that I can't rush to planet Northern Shang. The ancestor of Technique was very smart. He thought about it and figured out everything. Brother Fa Ming, let's play the next round. I'll leave once this round is over. Fu Heng smiled and waved his hand. A huge flag appeared in the air. The ancestor of Technique frowned. Fu Heng was very powerful. If he really wanted to fight him, he had no confidence at all. There was even a high possibility that he would not be able to defeat him. In an instant, many thoughts flashed through the ancestor of Technique's mind. Alright, since you're in such a good mood, let's play a round. The ancestor of technique was also helpless. He then sat cross-legged in the air facing Fu Heng with the chess game between them. At the same time he sent out a message to inform the righteous Sky Army that they were not to make a move no matter what they encountered before he arrived on the planet. Then he started playing chess with Fu Heng. On planet Northern Shang in the Qin Gold Mine, the Yuanluo Hall Master Kong Ji and the others had arrived. "Greetings, Hall Master." The true Ji. Oh. D-Realm Old Man and the other people from the Yuanluo Palace bowed. "How is it? Did you guys check this cave abode first?" The Hall Master of the Yuanluo Hall asked. "Palace Master, we've already gone to investigate, but there's a powerful defensive formation outside the cave abode. I can't break it with my cultivation. I'm afraid we'll need Palace Master and Grand Elder to work together to break it." The true Ji. Oh. D-Realm Old Man reported. "There's a great formation. It's within my expectations. Let's go." The Palace Master of the Yuanluo Palace led a group of experts into the cave abode and arrived at the gate of the building. Boom. The Palace Master of the Yuanluo Palace made his move. A terrifying attack was launched at the door. Rays of light shone on the door, blocking the attack from the Palace Master. Boom. With a loud boom, the array at the gate started to shake. The strength of the Yuanluo Palace Master was much stronger than the true Ji. Oh. D-Realm Elder. The true Ji. Oh. D-Realm Elder was only at the first stage of the true Ji. Oh. D-Realm, while the Hall Master of the Yuanluo Hall had already reached the fourth stage of the true Ji. Oh. D-Realm. It's effective. The Hall Master is truly amazing. The eyes of the other people from the Yuanluo Palace lit up as they began to flatter him. "Let's attack together and break the formation as quickly as possible," the Hall Master of the Yuanluo Hall ordered. Then the experts of the Yuanluo Palace attacked together. However, this array was indeed very strong. Even if their attacks were effective, it would not be broken in a short time. It would take a long time to slowly wear out the energy of the array. On the other side, Xianxia was still biting the wall. At this moment, there was already a large hole on the wall that was a meter deep. "This wall is really hard." Lu Ming was somewhat speechless. Now he could only wait patiently. With his cultivation he couldn't help much. "A day pass," said just like that. The wall had already been bitten 3 meters deep by Xianxia. Bang! With Xianxia's bite the wall was finally bitten through. "It's done." Lu Ming's eyes lit up. Crack, crack. Xianxia also became spirited. It bit harder. Soon a hole appeared. The wall had been completely opened up and dim light came from the other side. Lu Ming's body shrunk and he rushed into the cave in the wall. The next moment he appeared in a pause. Sage. The tunnel was surrounded by pitch-black walls. They had dug through the walls in the middle of the tunnel. Lu Ming identified the direction and then strode toward the depths of the pause. Sage. Chapter 2610 Sweeping everything clean. The pause sageway was hundreds of meters long. After walking through the pause sageway, Lu Ming came across a courtyard. It turned out that the pause sage just now was just a small path on the side. This was the real main courtyard. Boom, boom. Outside the courtyard came a series of rumbles. It was obvious that the gate of the building was right outside the courtyard. The palace master of the Yuanluo Palace and the others were bombarding the formation at the gate. They never would have thought that someone had already entered the building before they could even break the formation on the door. "I'm going to speed up." Lu Ming's figure flashed and he went into the courtyard. There was a large hall in the courtyard. Lu Ming's eyes immediately swept across the room. The hall was empty. Lu Ming was a little disappointed. However, there was an inner hall behind the main hall. Lu Ming walked into the inner hall. The inner hall was a little messy and there was a huge platform. Lu Ming took a closer look and recognized the platform. It should be used for forging weapons. There were some materials piled up randomly around the corner. Crack, crack. Xianxia had already started eating. It stretched out 2 tentacles, grabbed the ingredients and started eating. "This is star silver, black sky gold." Lu Ming's gaze swept across the room and he discovered 2 extremely precious refining materials. Star silver and black sky gold were both materials that could be used to craft middle-grade divine artifacts. They were extremely precious. "Wait." Lu Ming rushed over and quickly grabbed the star silver and black sky gold and kept them. Lu Ming only recognized these. There were many others that he did not recognize. Most likely their levels would not be low. Lu Ming and Qiu swept away all the materials like the wind. Crack, crack. Qiu glared at Lu Ming angrily as if it was saying that Lu Ming had its food. These materials aren't cheap. Take them out and exchange them for something else for you to eat. Lu Ming chuckled. The materials that could be used to craft middle-grade divine artifacts were definitely priceless. However, apart from these materials he did not find anything else of value. Lu Ming speculated that this should be the cave abode of an expert. The expert was refining weapons here and had thrown some useless materials on the corner. They were the materials that Lu Ming had collected earlier. However, the things that the expert didn't care about were also valuable to others. Lu Ming sized it up happily but did not discover anything else. He exited the inner hall and returned to the outer hall. He noticed that there was a corridor on the side of the outer hall. Lu Ming followed the corridor to the back and saw another courtyard. There was a tall building in front of the courtyard but the door of the courtyard was closed. There was also a large array set up on the door. Lu Ming tried but he realized that he could not enter at all. He was blocked by the large array. Looks like he'll have to take a detour again. Lu Ming pondered for a moment and then went back the way he came. He came to the side passage and exited from the gap that Qiu had bitten open. How do we fill up this gap? Lu Ming was deep in thought. Later on, if the Yuanluo Hall Master and the others broke the formation and entered, they would probably find this gap. Qiu seemed to have read Lu Ming's mind. It opened its mouth and a sticky black liquid spurted out. It looked like a black liquid metal. The black liquid metal poured into the gap and quickly solidified, completely blocking the gap. Lu Ming was a little dumbfounded. He speculated that the black liquid metal was the impurities that Qiu had eaten. Anyway, no matter what, the gap was blocked. Lu Ming was overjoyed. Then Qiu continued to refuel and gnaw on the old gold mine as it headed inside the building. When it estimated that it had already said the door, Qiu started to bite the black wall again. A few days later, Qiu bit through the wall and Lu Ming entered through the gap. He realized that he had already entered the building behind the door. There were many secret rooms here. Lu Ming began to search. In the beginning, a few of the secret rooms were empty. He only discovered it when he arrived at the largest secret room. There were a few shelves around the secret room and there were some jade bottles on the shelves. A divine pill. Lu Ming's eyes lit up. The divine elixir was very useful for the martial G. O.D. realm. There were actually some divine pills here. Lu Ming picked up a jade bottle and realized that there were runes carved on it. These runes were used to seal the jade bottle to prevent the medicinal effects from being lost. However, many years had passed, and the power of the seal had weakened. Lu Ming used the path of domination and broke the seal very quickly. Then he opened the jade bottle. Immediately, a thick medicinal fragrance filled the air. There's still medicinal effects. Lu Ming was overjoyed. However, Lu Ming did not know what the divine pill in the jade bottle was called or what effects it had. Lu Ming knew nothing about the divine pill. I don't care. Keep it first. I'll slowly identify it when I go out. Lu Ming waved his hand and kept all the jade bottles. There were more than 50 of them. After keeping it, Lu Ming sized up the secret room. In the middle of the secret room there was a dark-colored mark. This should be a secret room for alchemy. The mark in the middle should be where the alchemy furnace was placed. Lu Ming speculated. Although Lu Ming did not know much about divine pills, he was also an alchemist in the heaven realm. He was very familiar with the habitual steps of alchemy. He could speculate many things just by looking at the layout of the secret room. It was obvious that this was a secret alchemy room. However, the owner of this place had left with the alchemy furnace and most of the elixirs. Perhaps, some of the pills that were not important to the cave abode's owner had been left behind, and they were the ones that Lu Ming had obtained previously. However, the owner of this cave abode was not a trivial matter. Even if the owner of the cave abode did not like it, it did not mean that Lu Ming did not like it. After walking out of the secret room, Lu Ming began to search again. Then he found a passageway. However, this passageway was also set up with an array. Lu Ming could not pass through it at all. This cave is really big. There are more inside then. Let's continue. Lu Ming was all smiles. This cave dwelling had obviously been abandoned by its owner. Almost all the good things had been taken away, but even if there were some things left that were not important to the owner, they were still valuable treasures. Lu Ming went out through the hole that they had come in through. Xiao did the same thing again. It spewed out liquid metal and blocked the hole. Then they continued to dig and went deeper into the cave abode. After moving forward for a while, Xiao continued to bite a hole in the stone wall and Lu Ming entered it. This time the place they entered was a little special. They seemed to have entered a passageway. The passageway was very large, at least 100 meters in diameter, and smooth walls surrounded them on all four sides. It was pitch black in front of the passage and no one knew where it led to. Lu Ming pondered for a moment and walked along the passage. And NBSP hoo. All of a sudden, a terrifying whistling sound was heard in the passage. Then a strong suction force was produced in the passage, sucking Lu Ming in. Chapter 2611 Hurricane Tunnel. Not good. Lu Ming's expression changed drastically. The suction force at the front of the passage was too strong. Lu Ming was not prepared at all and was sucked in at once. Buzz. Lu Ming was like a small boat in a huge wave, drifting with the current and being thrown out directly. Soon they reached the end of the passage. However, at the end of the passage there was an even larger passage. The passage that Lu Ming was in just now was just a branch. The two paths converged. Lu Ming was directly thrown into this larger passage. Ooh! The larger passage was at least a few thousand meters in diameter, and it was filled with endless gales that blew in one direction. It was because of this wind that the air current was able to produce such a terrifying attractive force. The endless gale blew on Lu Ming's body. It was like a sharp blade cutting into Lu Ming's body, causing him to feel a sharp pain. Lu Ming hurriedly circulated the power of domination all over his body to resist the attack of the strong wind. And NBSP hoo. The strong wind whistled as Lu Ming was carried by the strong wind and flew towards the front of the passage at an extreme speed. In the blink of an eye he had flown hundreds of miles. No, I can't keep being carried around like this. Lu Ming's mind was racing. He mustered all his strength and rushed to the side of the passage. The side of the passage was full of uneven rocks. When Lu Ming was near the side of the passage, he grabbed a protruding rock and finally stabilized himself. There's a hurricane tunnel in the depths of this cave. Where does it lead to? Lu Ming started to think. Could it be that the true core of the cave abode was in the depths of the passage and he had to pass through the hurricane passage to reach it? This was highly possible. Many experts would set up formations or traps around their cave abodes to block others. This hurricane passage was most likely set up by the owner of the cave. Follow the side of the passage and go in to take a look. Lu Ming had made up his mind. He did not want to give up and came here. Immediately, Lu Ming walked along the side of the passage and climbed up the protruding rocks, slowly heading deeper into the passage. However, Lu Ming realized that the closer he got to the depths of the passage, the stronger the wind was. It was very energy-consuming for Lu Ming to resist the power of the hurricane. Every once in a while, Lu Ming would stop to rest and recover his energy. Just like that, Lu Ming walked for 3 days and still did not reach the end of the passage. This tunnel seemed to be endless. Roar. At this moment, Lu Ming heard a beast's roar. Beast roar? What's going on? Are there still desolate beasts or divine beasts here? Lu Ming had a puzzled look on his face. However, at the next moment his eyes widened. That was because he saw a huge wild beast soaring in the hurricane and flying toward Lu Ming. It was a strange desolate beast. Its body was like an eagle and was covered in green feathers. However, its head was that of a lion. It was Lu Ming's first time seeing such a dire beast with the head of a lion and the body of a bird. This wild beast was completely unafraid of the strong wind. It flapped its wings and flew against the wind. Its eyes were like lightning as it swept its gaze over Lu Ming. Buzz. Buzz. It flapped its wings a few times and flew towards Lu Ming at top speed. Its sharp claws grabbed at Lu Ming in the air. The force whistled and its sharpness was terrifying. Lu Ming's eyes turned cold. He grabbed the rock with one hand and held the meteor spear in the other. He thrust the spear forward. Clang. The meteor spear struck the sharp claws of his opponent, and the sound of metal clashing rang out. The lion-headed eagle beast was sent flying, but Lu Ming's long spear also trembled violently, causing Lu Ming's arm to go numb. What a terrifying power. Lu Ming's heart skipped a beat. He did not dare to be careless. Or, the lion-headed eagle beast retreated and spread its wings to stabilize its body. Its eyes were even colder. With a flap of its wings, its body was like a gust of wind as it charged at Lu Ming. Its wings were like blades, slashing at Lu Ming. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. Lu Ming held the spear in one hand and shot out rays of spear radiance as he fought the lion-headed eagle beast. In the blink of an eye, the two sides had exchanged dozens of blows. In the end, Lu Ming thrust his spear at the lion-headed eagle beast's lower abdomen. The lion-headed eagle beast roared in anger and retreated frantically. Feathers fell all over the sky, and it was swept away by the hurricane, disappearing at the end of the passage. Roar. Roar. The lion-headed eagle-bodied beast was incomparably enraged. It roared continuously and its wings flapped rapidly. Buzz. And NBSP whoosh. Wind blades sharper than ordinary divine artifacts were formed and shot toward Lu Ming. Not good. Without hesitation, Lu Ming activated the double combat strength of the battle formula. Now Lu Ming could trigger the double combat strength of the battle formula almost twice. After activating the double combat power, his strength increased greatly. With a shake of his long spear, he shot out over 100 spear lights, destroying the wind blades one by one. At the same time, the long spear swept out with the wind, sweeping towards the lion-headed eagle beast. Lu Ming's attack was already astonishingly fast to begin with. Now that he was moving along with the wind, his speed became even faster. The lion-headed eagle beast wanted to dodge, but it was already too late. It was struck by the long spear. Bang! The lion-headed eagle beast exploded. To Lu Ming's surprise, after the lion-headed eagle beast exploded, there was not a single drop of blood. It turned into energy and disappeared. It's fake and not a real living being? Lu Ming was also stunned. Could it be that this was condensed by the big array? However, the lion-headed eagle beast was too real. It was no different from the real thing. Lu Ming could not tell just now. After killing the lion-headed eagle-bodied beast, Lu Ming continued to move forward from the side. However, they didn't go far before they heard a few more roars. Then Lu Ming saw the lion-headed eagle beast. Moreover, it wasn't just one this time but three. The three lion-headed eagle-bodied beasts pounced at Lu Ming the moment they saw him. Then let's fight. Lu Ming's eyes turned cold. He brandished his long spear and engaged the three-headed lion-headed eagle beast in close combat. This time they exchanged more than 100 moves. In the hurricane tunnel, Lu Ming had to resist the strong wind and it was difficult for him to exert his full strength. On the other hand, the lion-headed eagle beast was like a fish in water, able to exert its full strength. Therefore, even though the lion-headed eagle beast's level was not high, Lu Ming still spent a lot of effort to kill it. It's not bad to use this environment to train myself. Lu Ming smiled faintly. In such an adverse situation, Lu Ming had to go all out to fight the lion-headed eagle beast. He had to exert his dominant power and the battle character formula to the extreme. After the previous exchange of blows, Lu Ming felt that he had gained some understanding of the ruler and the battle character formula. Although it wasn't much, it was still much faster than dry and bitter cultivation. After that, Lu Ming found a larger protruding rock and used it to stabilize his body. He then circulated his cultivation technique to recover. Every time he used the double combat power of the battle formula, he had to rest and recover. It was impossible to use it continuously. A few hours later, Lu Ming had fully recovered. He then continued to head deeper into the passage. However, he had not gone far when a few more lion-headed eagle-bodied beasts appeared and fought with Lu Ming. After another 100 moves, the lion-headed eagle beast was finally killed. Lu Ming had gained more understanding of the Tao of domination and the battle formula. Chapter 2612 Tempering through killing. Just like that, Lu Ming advanced and killed along the way. In the blink of an eye, 3 months had passed. After 3 months, they still had not reached the end of the passage. There were two main reasons for this. First, the passage was too long. The second reason was that Lu Ming's progress was very slow. Every time he advanced a certain distance, he would encounter the lion-headed eagle-bodied beast. Naturally, his progress would be slower. There was even one time when Lu Ming encountered more than 10 lion-headed eagle-bodied beasts appearing at the same time. Lu Ming was no match for them and could only retreat against the wind. Fortunately, the lion-headed eagle beast seemed to have its own territory. When Lu Ming retreated to a certain area, the other party did not pursue him. Lu Ming continued to fight the lion-headed eagle beast. After 3 months, the palace master and the experts of the Yuanluo Palace finally broke the formation of the outermost gate. The door opened and the palace master and the others rushed in excitedly. They fantasized that there would be a large number of treasures waiting for them. However, it was as if a basin of cold water had been poured on them. There was nothing. They searched every corner but it was empty. There was nothing. The palace master's face darkened. Naturally, they had also searched for the passageway that Lu Ming had entered previously. However, the gap had been blocked by Qiuqiu. They had only scanned the area casually and naturally did not discover it. Soon they came to the depths and were blocked by the second door. Palace master, there's another door here. Perhaps the area we're in now is only the periphery of the cave abode, so there's no treasure here. We might be able to obtain an opportunity through this door. The Grand Elder of the Yuanluo Palace, Missouri-kin, said. That's right, the treasure must be hidden inside. As long as we break through this door, we'll definitely be able to obtain the treasure. The others from the Yuanluo Palace also chimed in. The palace master's expression eased a little. Alright, then let's join forces and break this door. When we get the treasures, I will definitely not mistreat you. Many thanks, Hall Master. The others expressed their gratitude and joined forces to attack the door. However, the moment they made their move, their expressions turned ugly. This was because the strength of this gate's array was much stronger than the first gate. The first door had taken them several months to break open. This door would probably take even longer. But now they were helpless and could only grit their teeth and attack. In the sky above the righteous army, the ancestor of technique and Fu Heng were still playing chess. What they were playing wasn't a real game of chess. It contained cultivation and wisdom. Every move was a contest between the two of them and it would take a long time. They were still playing chess with all their might. In the hurricane tunnel, Lu Ming was still moving forward slowly, fighting with the lion-headed eagle beast. Just like that, Lu Ming entered the hurricane passageway. 8 months had passed. After 8 months of continuous killing, Lu Ming had made great progress in all aspects. Lu Ming felt that his cultivation level had reached the limit of a 5-star heavenly emperor and he could break through. I've been fighting and tempering myself here. My cultivation has indeed improved very quickly. Lu Ming sighed. If he were to cultivate step by step outside, even in such a good environment like the desolate universe, Lu Ming would need at least 5 years before he could break through. And this was under the premise that he had Jing Ye's portrait to study. However, in less than a year Lu Ming felt that he could break through. I have to find a better place to break through. Along the way I saw some pits, but I have to break through in those pits. Lu Ming pondered. The walls here were uneven and there were often some potholes like shallow caves. It was a very good hiding place. Lu Ming continued to move forward. After a few more rounds of fighting, Lu Ming finally found a pit. After entering the pit, Lu Ming sat cross-legged and began to regulate his breathing. A few hours later, Lu Ming had recovered to his peak state. He took out a pile of divine crystals and started to break through. The breakthrough this time was smooth without any difficulty. A few days later, Lu Ming successfully became a 6-star heavenly emperor. The price he paid was that he had to consume over 10,000 divine crystals. After becoming a 6-star heavenly emperor, Lu Ming's abilities had become stronger. However, the further one advanced in the virtual G.O.D. realm, the greater the gap between each level. It was getting harder and harder for him to break through in the Heavenly Emperor realm and fight across levels. If he did not use the battle character formula, Lu Ming could only fight against a 4th-level Void G.O.D. level powerhouse at most with the Path of Domination. After successfully breaking through, Lu Ming continued to advance and fought the lion-headed eagle-bodied beast to temper himself. In the blink of an eye, Lu Ming had been in the hurricane passageway for 1 year and 3 months. At this moment, the Yuanluo Hall Master and the others were still blocked by the second door and could not break the formation. Hall Master, bad news. At this moment, an expert from the Yuanluo Palace came in and reported. What is it? The Hall Master of the Yuanluo Hall asked with a dark expression. He was in a bad mood. He had been here for more than a year, but he had not gained anything. If this went on, when Fu Heng couldn't hold the ancestor of technique back anymore, it would be troublesome. Palace Master, the free and unfettered sect master, is here with his men. An expert from the Yuanluo Palace reported. That old fellow Situ, the Yuanluo Palace Master, gritted his teeth. Brother Kong, you're too unkind. There's an expert's cave here and you want to take it for yourself without even informing me. At this time a cold and faint voice rang out and a group of people rushed in. The one in the lead was a skinny middle-aged man. This man was the leader of the Footloose sect, Situ Haonan. Brother Situ, you've misunderstood me. There's a formation blocking this place. I was going to break the formation and inform you. The palace master of the Yuanluo Palace said with a fake smile. Notify me when the formation is broken? Situ Haonan laughed coldly and said, Brother Kong, no matter what, we're in an alliance. We've worked together to deal with the righteous army. My carefree sect has helped you hold back many of the righteous army's experts, which is why you have the opportunity to occupy this cave dwelling. So my carefree sect will also have a share of this cave dwelling. Brother Kong, do you have any objections? How many do you want? The Yuanluo Palace Master said. Half. Well, split the treasures inside. Situ Haonan said. Half. The Palace Master's face darkened. Brother Situ, you're apat. 1. He is too big. Too big? He. Situ Haonan sneered. If I turn around and leave now and lure Fa Ming here, I'm afraid you won't even get half of it. You, the Palace Master's expression turned ugly. Everything was about benefits. The Yuanluo Palace and the Walkabout sect had only joined forces for the sake of profit. Now that an expert's cave abode was in front of them, their relationship was not as friendly. He had no doubt that if he refused, Situ Haonan would do anything. Chapter 26 13 7-star Heavenly Emperor. The Palace Master of the Yuanluo Palace forced out a smile and said, Brother Situ must be joking. Fine, half it is, but the formation here is very strong and difficult to break. Next, we'll need all of free and unfettered sects experts to attack together. This is only natural. Situ Haonan revealed a smile. Immediately, the experts from the Yuanluo Palace and the Walkabout sect joined forces to attack the formation. With the two of them working together, their speed increased greatly. It only took them a month to break through the formation and open the door. Let's go. The experts from both sides rushed into the gate, ready to plunder the treasures. But after entering, he was dumbfounded. It was clean and there was nothing inside. They came to the place where Lu Ming had taken the pills. There were a few shelves, but there was nothing on the shelves. Empty. The palace master's face was extremely gloomy. His chest heaved up and down and he almost vomited blood. Could it be that this cave abode was empty, and the owner of the cave abode did not leave anything behind? It shouldn't be. This was a deity's cave abode. According to common sense, even if such a person left, he would take some valuable treasures with him, but he would always leave behind some unimportant items. They might not be important to heavenly deities, but to them they might all be priceless treasures. But how could there be nothing? Search carefully. The hall master of the Yuanluo Hall roared. They searched inside and out, but they couldn't find a single hair. In the end, they came to the depths of this area. There was a passage here that was blocked by an extremely powerful formation. There's more inside. Perhaps the deeper part of the cave is inside. Perhaps the treasures are all inside. The hall master of the Yuanluo Hall and the others consoled themselves with this thought. Then he had no choice but to continue working hard and bombarding the formation. However, the formation here was even more powerful than the previous one. Even an expert from the Walkabout sect would need a long time to break through it. Time said quickly. It had been 2 years since Lu Ming entered the Hurricane Sageway. Lu Ming made rapid progress in the continuous fighting. His cultivation level had unknowingly reached the peak of 6-star Heavenly Emperor. Lu Ming found another pit and started to break through to the next realm. In the end, he successfully broke through the realm and became a 7-star Heavenly Emperor. Lu Ming had finally reached the peak of 7-star Heavenly Emperor. The next step was to combine all 10,000 elements into one and form the Divine Fire. After condensing the Divine Fire, he would be able to break through to the Martial D realm and enter the second step of cultivation. To the current Lu Ming, it was not particularly difficult for him to gather 10,000 elements into one and condense the Divine Fire. This was because when Lu Ming came to the primeval universe, his small world had already merged with the primeval universe and transformed into pure world energy and dominator energy. Moreover, as Lu Ming's cultivation level increased, the proportion of the ruler's power in his body increased. Now the proportion of the dominator's power in Lu Ming's body had reached 99%. Only 1% of the world's power was left. As long as he could convert all the energy in his body into the dominator's power, Lu Ming could begin to attempt the 10,000 elements return to one and condense the divine fire. This trip to the cave abode had helped Lu Ming save a lot of time. Continue. After the breakthrough, Lu Ming continued to move forward along the pass, Sage Way, Hu, and Nbsp Hong Long. This time, after Lu Ming had walked for a while, he not only heard the terrifying whistling of the strong wind, but also deafening collision sounds. Lu Ming continued to move forward for a while and realized that he had finally reached the end of the pass, Sage. At the end of the pass, Sage, there were several other pass, sages that intersected and converged. Each pass, sage was filled with strong wind. The wind from several pass, sages collided with each other, creating a shocking explosion. Furthermore, the wind from the few tunnels converged into an even larger tunnel, making the wind in that tunnel even stronger. Lu Ming felt that if he were to enter, he would not be able to resist for long before his body was torn apart by the strong wind. It seems that I can only stop here. I'm afraid I can't enter the depths of the cave abode. Lu Ming pondered. There's a cave here? Suddenly, Lu Ming noticed a dark cave beside the wall. He climbed along the wall and looked into the cave. It was dark and bottomless. Along the way, Lu Ming had not found any similar caves. Where did this cave lead to? Lu Ming was extremely curious. He pondered for a moment and decided to take a look. Lu Ming activated the power of domination. His eyes glowed. He could see everything in the dark cave. Lu Ming entered the cave. There was no wind in the cave. Lu Ming walked carefully along the cave. He reached the end of the cave after walking for a few thousand meters. Then Lu Ming realized that he had come to a huge platform. The platform was very wide, and on one side of the platform the sound of the wind could be heard. Lu Ming walked over to take a look and realized that in the direction of the platform, there was a hurricane pass, Sage. The strong wind there was extremely terrifying. It was many times stronger than the ones that Lu Ming had encountered before. Lu Ming's expression was a little grave. He did not dare to approach and stayed away from the hurricane pass, Sage. He sized up the other places on the platform. On the other side of the platform there was a stone door. Lu Ming pushed the door open and entered, only to discover a pass, Sage way. There were some rooms on both sides of the pass, Sage. Could these be the bedroom? Lu Ming discovered that there were stone tables and stone beds in these rooms. However, they were all very ordinary and did not contain any treasures. The next few rooms were all ordinary stone tables and beds. They were of no value. Lu Ming's eyes lit up when he came to the last room. There were some shelves in the room and on them were weapons. Lu Ming's heart began to beat rapidly. He picked up a combat sword nearby and infused his ruler's power into it. Buzz. The combat sword began to glow and a powerful aura filled the air. This is a level 9 low-grade G. Oh. D equipment. Lu Ming's breathing quickened and his eyes were burning. This was definitely a level 9 low-grade G. Oh. D equipment. The meteor spear that Lu Ming had bought was only a level 6 low-grade divine artifact, but it was worth 7,000 divine crystals. A level 9 low-grade divine artifact's price was at least several times higher. It could be sold for 70 to 80,000 divine crystals, or even 100,000 divine crystals. There are words below. Lu Ming discovered that there was a small sign hanging on the hilt of the sword. There were words written on it. Guyu sword, a level 9 low-quality G. O. D artifact. On the sign there was a line of words. It really is a level 9 low-grade G. O. D artifact. Lu Ming laughed and kept it quickly. He then looked at the other weapons. Breeze hook, a level 9 low-grade G. O. D equipment. Separation and reunion saber, level 8 low-grade G. O. D artifact. Lu Ming looked at 6 to 7 weapons in a row. All of them were level 7 low-grade divine artifacts or above. Enrich. Enrich. Lu Ming muttered to himself. This time he was really rich. Lu Ming never expected that he would have such a great harvest after pass. Sing through the hurricane tunnel. 6 battle rod, a middle grade level 1 divine artifact. When Lu Ming picked up a long rod and took a look, his eyes immediately lit up. Chapter 2614 Ambushing the Ancestor of Technique. There was actually a middle-grade divine artifact here. A middle-grade divine weapon was equivalent to an expert at the true G.O.D. realm. Only an expert at the true G.O.D. realm could unleash the full power of a middle-grade divine weapon. Lu Ming's eyes burned even more fervently. He kept the long staff and sped up to read it. Level 3 middle-grade G.O.D. equipment. Level 2 middle-grade G.O.D. equipment. A moment later, Lu Ming put away all the weapons. There were a total of 33 divine artifacts. All of them were level 7 low-grade G.O.D. equipment and above. Any one of them was better than the meteor spear that he was using now. And NBSP among them, there were 20 low-quality divine artifacts. There were a total of 13 middle-grade divine artifacts. There were even 2 G.O.D. tools in there. The highest level was a level 7 middle-grade G.O.D. tool. One was a battle sword and the other was a battle saber. How many G.O.D. crystals could a middle-grade level 7 G.O.D. equipment be sold for? Lu Ming could not estimate the value of a divine weapon of this level. Even forces like the Righteous Army, the Origin Hall, and the Walkabout sect could not produce one. It was too precious. Lu Ming had no idea how many divine crystals the 33 divine artifacts were worth. In short, he knew that he had struck it rich. From now on, he wouldn't have to worry about resources. His disciples, family, friends, and the people of the Dragon Alliance wouldn't have to worry about resources either. Meteor spear, you can change it. Lu Ming was all smiles. Among the 33 divine artifacts, there were a few spears. The highest grade one was a middle grade rank 4 G.O.D. artifact. And NBSP. In addition, he had a level 8 low quality G.O.D. artifact and a level 9 low quality G.O.D. artifact. Lu Ming picked up a level 9 low grade divine artifact and waved it a few times. Felt pretty good. After looting all the divine artifacts, Lu Ming wandered around for a while. He left only after he was sure that there were no more treasures. I can't go in with my cultivation. I can go back. Lu Ming was satisfied. After that, he would go through the cave and return to the hurricane tunnel. Then he followed the original path and climbed the rock back. Going back was going against the wind and it was very difficult. However, Lu Ming had already killed all the lion-headed eagle beasts in the hurricane pass. Sage. There were no lion-headed eagle beasts to stop him on his way back. Moreover, Lu Ming's cultivation level had increased by a notch, so he was still very fast. Even if it was against the wind, it was still many times faster than when they came. After Lu Ming had crawled back for a while, the people from the free and unfettered sect of the Yuanluo Palace finally opened the formation of the Pass Sage. They rushed through the Pass Sage. At the end of the Pa South Sage was the place where Lu Ming had obtained a large number of divine artifacts. Then the palace master Situ Haonan and the others realized that the place was still empty. Other than some stone chairs and tables, there was nothing else. What's going on? The Yuanluo Palace master bellowed. He could no longer control his temper. After all his hard work, he found that there was nothing here. If he knew that Lu Ming had already arrived here, he would probably vomit blood in anger. Everyone's face was extremely unsightly. Then when they found the hurricane tunnel, their faces became even more unsightly. The hurricane pass sage here was a combination of several pass sages and its power was astonishing. Even the Yuanluo Palace master was a little afraid of it. This should be a barrier set up by the master of the cave. Could it be that the real inner cave is in the depths of these hurricane pass sages? They guessed. However, they were hesitant. Usually such a place would definitely be accompanied by danger. Let's observe for a few days before making a decision, the Yuanluo Palace master said. In the sky above the Jingtian army headquarters on Jingtian planet, the ancestor of technique in Fu Hing had been playing this game of chess for more than 2 years. And now it was already the final moment. Break. The ancestor of technique waved his hand and a huge chess piece was formed. He then placed it on the chessboard. Fu Hing's expression changed. He waved his hand and a powerful force rushed toward the ancestor of technique, preventing him from placing the chess piece. Boom. Boom. The two of them continued to attack each other. In the past 2 years, The two of them had already gone through this kind of confrontation countless times. After a dozen moves, boom. In the end, the ancestor of technique's chess piece still landed on the chessboard. You've lost. The ancestor of technique looked at Fu Heng. Brother Fa is indeed talented. I am impressed. The game is over and I have fulfilled my promise. Brother Fa, please don't blame me. I'm leaving. With a wave of his sleeve, Fu Heng soared into the sky. Then an interplanetary warship appeared. He boarded the warship and left the true sky star. Northern Shang planet. The moment Fu Heng left, the ancestor of technique immediately went to the teleportation formation and headed to the Northern Shang planet. After arriving at Seven Star Island, he immediately rushed to the ancient gold mine and met up with the righteous army 100,000 miles away from the ancient gold island. The general is here. General. The people of the righteous army immediately saluted the ancestor of technique. What's the situation at the Yuan Luo Palace in the past 2 years? The ancestor of technique asked. General, for the past 2 years the palace master of the Yuan Luo Palace, the sect master of the Xiaoyao sect, and the others have all been in the cave abodes of the experts. They have never come out. Someone reported. That old fox Situ Haonan is here too. The ancestor of technique's eyes flashed with a sharp glint as he ordered, "You guys wait for me here, I'll go check it out myself." With that, the ancestor of technique turned into a beam of light and rushed toward the old gold mine. It's the Righteous Heaven Army's General Fa Ming. Quickly inform the Hall Master and the others. The moment the ancestor of technique arrived, the people from the Yuan Luo Palace and the Carefree sect immediately noticed him. Under the leadership of a few true G.O.D. stage experts, they were on high alert and sent the news to the Yuan Luo Palace Master and the others. Both Yuan Luo Palace Master and Situ Haonan received the news at the same time. Fa Ming actually dared to come alone. Fine, I'll make him stay today. Yuan Luo Palace Master's eyes glinted with a cold light. After spending a few years without getting anything in return, he was filled with anger. It's good. Well, get rid of Fa Ming and split the righteous army's territory equally. Situ Haonan also said coldly. Eldermo, you should hide in the dark first. Fei Ming might think that you're still guarding the headquarters. Later on, when Brother Situ and I fight with Fei Ming, you'll secretly attack and ambush him. The Hall Master of the Yuan Luo Hall ordered. The Yuan Luo Palace Master was rather wary of the ancestor of technique. He and Mo Kan were both at the 4th stage of true G.O.D. realm, while the ancestor of technique was only at the 3rd stage of true G.O.D. realm. However, the ancestor of technique's combat power was extremely strong. With his power alone he could fight with the two of them. Even with the help of Situ Haonan, they were not confident that they could stop the ancestor of technique if they were to fight him head-on. They could not stop him if he wanted to leave. Only a sneak attack could possibly stop the ancestor of technique. Don't worry. The Grand Elder of the Walkabout sect is also hiding near the Qinjin mine. He can also launch a sneak attack when the time comes. Well, definitely make Fa Ming stay here today. Situ Haonan said coldly. The Yuan Luo Palace Master's heart trembled as he thought, "Old fox, this Situ Haonan must have asked a Grand Elder of the Walkabout sect to hide in the dark to guard against the Yuan Luo Palace. Alright then, today, he'll make sure that Fa Ming won't be able to return." The Yuan Luo Palace Master said coldly as they headed out. Chapter 2615 True G.O.D. Battle outside the cave. The ancestor of technique stood in the void, exuding a vast divine might. Set up the formation. The Yuan Luo and free and unfettered sect experts who were guarding outside the cave had extremely grave expressions on their faces. One by one they retreated and set up a great formation waiting for the attack. The ancestor of technique's name was Too Great. A person who came out of a small kiliacosm under the jurisdiction of the Yuan Luo Palace broke free from the restraints of the Yuan Luo Palace and rose against the heavens. He created the righteous army to fight against the Yuan Luo Palace. More importantly, the ancestor of technique's combat strength was extremely powerful. He had fought against 2 experts from the Yuan Luo Palace alone and established a great reputation. Even though there was a 3rd stage true G.O.D. from the Yuan Luo Palace who had the same cultivation as the ancestor of technique, his face was pale and his heart was filled with fear. He had once seen the ancestor of technique kill a stage 3 true G.O.D. expert with a single move. He didn't have the slightest bit of courage to face the ancestor of technique. "Kong Ji, get out here." The ancestor of technique shouted coldly. His voice was so loud that many people with weak cultivation had to step back. Ming, do you only know how to act so arrogantly in front of my subordinates? The voice of the palace master of the Yuanluo Palace, Kong Ji, could be heard from within the cave. Then with a flash, more than 10 figures rushed out of the cave abode. It was Kong Ji, Situ Haonan and the others. Of course, the Grand Elder of the Yuanluo Palace, Missouri-kan, did not appear. Kong Ji's eyes swept around and found that only Fa Ming was there. The cold light in his eyes became even thicker. Kong Ji Qinjin Dao originally belonged to my righteous army. Now you can get lost. The ancestor of technique said. Ha, laughable, truly laughable. Kong Ji laughed and looked at the ancestor of technique with a mocking expression. Fei Ming, you're really naive. You've been in the chaotic astral river for so many years, yet you still don't understand one thing. In the chaotic astral river, whoever is stronger will be able to occupy more and more territory. From now on, this island, no, the entire northern Shang planet will belong to my Yuanluo Palace and the free and unfettered sect. Do you understand? Since that's the case, let's use our strength to speak. The ancestor of technique was very direct. He stepped out and his vast divine power burst out like a tide. Boom. The ancestor of technique's palm pressed down. His divine power boiled and a huge palm print smashed down towards Kong Ji. Kong Ji didn't dare to be careless. His 4th level true Ji. D realm divine power completely erupted. In his hand a battle blade appeared. A blade light soared into the sky and slashed towards the technique ancestor's palm print. Boom. And NBSP energy shot into the sky as divine power clashed, creating shockwaves that scattered in all directions. Not good, block it. The true D realm experts from the Yuanluo Palace and the Walkabout sect all laid down layers of defense in front of them to block the shockwaves, but they were still pushed back by the shockwaves. Some of the weaker ones spat out blood and their faces turned pale. If there were true D experts to defend, those with weaker cultivation would have been killed by the shockwaves. There was a huge difference between the void D realm and the true D realm. At the same time, the blade light and the palm print dissipated. A figure continuously retreated, and the person who retreated was Kong Ji. His cultivation was clearly at the 4th stage of true D realm, 1 stage higher than the ancestor of technique. However, in a head-on battle he was at a disadvantage. Kong Ji, your battle strength is not good enough. The ancestor of technique said coldly. He activated his divine power and struck out with his palm again. Sun Blade Technique. And NBC kill. Kong Ji shouted, and his middle grade level 4 D artifact battle saber emitted a dazzling saber light that was as dazzling as the sun. Then he struck out with his saber. The scorching saber light slashed at the ancestor of technique's palm print. Kong Ji displayed his delay skill. Fa Ming, take this. The leader of the free and unfettered sect, Situ Haonan, also made his move. His body moved like a flickering light and a sing shadow. He was extremely fast as he rushed towards the ancestor of technique. At the same time, a soft sword appeared in his hand. The sword light was like a poisonous snake as it stabbed towards the vital parts of the ancestor of technique. This was also a terrifying divine skill. Kong Ji and Situ Haonan both used their delay skills. The ancestor of technique's face finally revealed a trace of seriousness. In his hand a combat sword also appeared. The blade of the sword was a full 2 meters long. Buzz. The ancestor of technique slashed out with his sword, and the sword light broke through the air and flashed. Boom. Boom. With 2 violent explosions, the ancestor of technique blocked Kong Ji and Situ Haonan's attacks. Fa Ming, since you dared to come here alone today, you can stay here forever. Kong Ji continuously used his Shin power and used his Shin technique to the extreme. The power was extremely terrifying as he attacked. At the same time, Situ Haonan's body flickered and moved around at an extremely fast speed, taking the opportunity to attack the ancestor of technique's weakness. With the 2 of them working together, their power increased sharply. The ancestor of technique focused his attention and fought 1 against 2, and it was difficult to tell who was winning. The 3 of them fought on the sea, creating huge waves, and then fought in the sky. In the blink of an eye, the 3 of them had exchanged hundreds of moves, and it was difficult to determine the winner. At this time the three of them were fighting on the sea again. Whoosh! Suddenly, the surface of the sea churned, and a terrifying destructive light burst out from the sea and attacked the ancestor of technique. Mo Kan. The ancestor of technique shouted angrily. Ha fa Ming Dai. Kong Ji laughed and launched a violent attack. Sidu Haonan also burst out with full power attacks, coordinating with Mo Kan's sneak attack. Just as the ancestor of technique was about to be hit, suddenly, the sword light on his body expanded and shot out in all directions. Boom. 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 Kong Ji, Situ Haonan and Mo Kan's attacks were all blocked by the sword light that filled the sky. Buzz. Boo. Kong Ji, Situ Haonan and Mo Kan retreated quickly. They stood in the air and looked at the ancestor of technique in shock. Fei Ming, you've reached the 3rd level of your divine skill? Kong Ji roared in shock. A divine skill was naturally an attack of the martial Ji. D realm. It could exert the power of divine power to the extreme and burst out with terrifying power. It had the same meaning as martial skills. According to the different power and the different degree of profoundness, divine skills were also divided into different levels. However, the division of Shin skills was completely related to the level of mystery. For example, a divine skill only had one level. Even if it was cultivated to the peak, there would only be one level, and that would be a divine skill of the 1st level. Some divine skills when cultivated to the peak had 2 levels, and that would be 2 divine skills. 2 divine skills were naturally more powerful and terrifying than one. Some divine skills when cultivated to the peak would have 3 levels and would become 3 levels of divine skills. The more levels a divine skill had, the greater its potential and the higher its value. Of course, the cultivation of a Shin technique is very profound and complicated. Even if you have it, you might not be able to cultivate it to the highest level. For example, if a person's talent was limited and he had a triple-layer divine skill, but could only cultivate it to the 1st layer, then the power would be no different from that of a 1st-layer divine skill. The more profound it was, the more levels it would have. There were 4th, 5th, 6th and even 9th and 10th levels. The minimum requirement to cultivate a divine skill was to be at peak Void D level because it consumed a lot of divine power to use divine level. Without great divine power it could not be sustained at all. Kong Ji and Situ Haonan both have a triple-stage spirit technique, but they've only cultivated it to the 2nd stage. The ancestor of technique also had a triple divine skill, but he had already cultivated it to the 3rd level. Chapter 2616 Unexpected Calamity. One had to know that the ancestor of technique was only at stage 3 true D realm, but he had already cultivated a divine technique to stage 3. This kind of comprehension ability was simply terrifying. He must be eliminated. Kong Ji roared in his heart. The ancestor of technique was so terrifying. If he were to break through to the 4th level of the true D stage, how terrible would that be? So what if you've cultivated your divine skill to the 3rd level? You'll still die today. Kong Ji roared and charged towards the ancestor of technique. At the same time, Situ Haonan and Mo can also charge towards the ancestor of technique. Each of them unleashed their divine skills to their maximum potential. Sword-breaking art. The ancestor of technique's sword stabbed out continuously. There were more than 10 sword lights that stabbed towards Kong Ji, Situ Haonan and Mo Kan. This was the technique ancestor's divine technique. It had already been cultivated to the 3rd level and its power was extremely strong. It continuously collided with the attacks of Kong Ji and the others. In the air, the ancestor of technique was forced to retreat. However, he still managed to block the attacks from Kong Ji and the others. He was only at a slight disadvantage. Kill. Kong Ji was extremely shocked. With the power of the 3 of them, they were actually unable to take down the ancestor of technique. Didn't that mean that without Situ Haonan, he and Mo Kan were not the ancestor of technique's match? He had to get rid of the ancestor of technique, or else he would not be able to eat or sleep in peace. Situ Haonan had the same thought. The carefree sex strength was similar to the Yuan Luo Palace. The 3 of them once again charged towards the ancestor of technique. The 2 sides were locked in a fierce battle. Force him to the island. During the battle, Situ Haonan transmitted a message to Kong Ji and Mo Kan. Kong Ji's eyes flashed with ferocity. He continued to attack violently, forcing the ancestor of technique towards Qinjin Dao. On Qinjin Island, the people from the Yuan Luo Palace and the Walkabout sect retreated far away, not daring to stay there. Slowly their battle moved to Qingjing Island. Whoosh. All of a sudden, a sword light burst out from a hidden place on the island. The sword light was bright and sharp and its power was extremely shocking. It was not any weaker than Situ Haonan's. You guys. The ancestor of technique revealed a shocked expression. He knew that he had been ambushed and the other side still had experts to kill him. He didn't need to think to know that it was a grand elder of the walkabout sect, in existence at the 4th level of the true G.O.D. stage. The ancestor of technique tried his best to dodge, but Kong Ji and the other two launched a fierce attack, making it difficult for the ancestor of technique to truly dodge. In the end, the ancestor of technique didn't completely avoid it. A sword light streaked across his chest, almost cutting him to the side. Get lost. The ancestor of technique roared. In an instant, hundreds of sword lights shot out, forcing Kong Ji and the others to retreat. With a flash, Kong Ji and the other three surrounded the ancestor of technique. Very good. I didn't expect that the strongest people of your two forces would be here. The ancestor of technique's face was pale. Although he had managed to avoid being hit in his vital parts, he had still suffered some injuries and his strength had been reduced. Fa Ming, your fate has already been decided today. A mere ant from a small kiliacosm can't defy the heavens. Kong Ji coldly said. So what if it's a small world? Do you think you're Blee just because you were born in the primeval world? How laughable. If it was a one-on-one battle, you all would be nothing more than clay chickens and pottery dogs. The ancestor of technique laughed coldly, his face filled with contempt. Kong Ji and the other three's faces were a bit gloomy. Indeed, none of the four of them were the ancestor of technique's match in a one-on-one battle. Even though their cultivation levels were higher. You only know how to use your tongue. The winner is king and the loser is a bandit. Ming, I'll send you on your way. Kong Ji didn't waste any more words and his figure rushed towards the ancestor of technique. At the same time, Situ Haonan and the other two also launched their attacks. Before this, the ancestor of technique had fought 3 people alone and was not a match for them. Now that he was injured, he was even less of a match for 4 people alone. He was at a disadvantage the moment they started fighting. General Jing Tian is finished. In the future, the territory of the righteous army will belong to our 2 families. Not far away, the people from the Yuan Luo Palace and the Walkabout sect thought excitedly. Boom. Boom. The ancestor of technique and the other 4 fought intensely. The ancestor of technique was completely at a disadvantage and could only try his best to block. He had no power to fight back. Bang. After exchanging dozens of blows, the ancestor of technique's body was sent flying and crashed heavily into Qingjing's island. Boom. Smoke and dust filled the air, and the sky was filled with ancient gold ore. A huge pit appeared on the island. At this time, Lu Ming had already said through the hurricane sage and returned to the Qingjin or vein. He followed the tunnel of the mine Qiuqiu had dug out earlier and headed out of Qingjing Island. Boom. 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 He was only halfway there when a violent boom came from above. Then he felt the entire island shaking. Then a terrifying force rushed toward him along the mine vein above. Not good. Lu Ming retreated frantically. Then the mine vein in the area exploded continuously. Lu Ming was sent flying by a force. The ancestor of technique was lying in the deep pit on the island, spitting out large mouthfuls of blood. This attack made his injuries a little worse. Buzz. The ancestor of technique barely managed to stabilize his injuries and rushed out of the deep pit. The auras of Kong Ji and the other 3 firmly locked onto the ancestor of technique, trapping him in the middle. Suddenly, Kong Ji and the others were stunned because they felt an aura of life within a pile of rocks. Bang. Then the rocks exploded and a figure rushed out. This figure was naturally Lu Ming. Nest, what's going on? Lu Ming was speechless. He had also encountered an undeserved disaster when he said through the old gold mine. When his gaze swept across Kong Ji and the rest, his heart skipped a beat. He knew that this was bad. Kong Ji and the rest's aura was too terrifying. In Lu Ming's opinion, they were simply unfathomable. Lu Ming, why are you here? At this moment, the ancestor of technique also saw Lu Ming. He was shocked. In a flash, he appeared beside Lu Ming. Ancestor of technique. Lu Ming was overjoyed to see the ancestor of technique. So you're an ant from the righteous army. Ming, it's your fortune to have a little brat die with you. Kong Ji coldly said. The ferocity in his eyes became stronger and stronger. Kangji, the master of the Yuanluo Palace. Lu Ming's heart skipped a beat and many thoughts flashed through his mind. He roughly knew what had happened. The ancestor of technique was being surrounded. Don't worry, Fa Ming. After you die, he'll send the people of the righteous army to accompany you. Zhou Xian also said coldly. The four of them gradually approached the ancestor of technique, preparing to launch a thunderous attack to kill him. Senior, this battle sword is for you. At this moment, Lu Ming took out a combat sword and handed it to the ancestor of technique. This combat sword was one of the 2 level 7 middle grade divine artifacts that Lu Ming had obtained from the cave abode. This is... The moment he saw the sword, the ancestor of technique's eyes widened in shock. However, he did not hesitate. He took it and spat a mouthful of blood onto the sword. He didn't have time to refine it now, but by sacrificing it with blood he could temporarily release the power of the combat sword and control it freely. Buzz. The battle sword shook and a beam of sword chi shot up into the sky. Chapter 2617 Depressed Kangji. That is, a middle grade level 7G. Oh. D artifact. Kangji, Zhou Xian, Mo Kan and the rest couldn't help but widen their eyes, revealing an extremely shocked expression. At the same time there was also a deep sense of greed. Kill. The ancestor of technique shouted and displayed the sword-breaking art. The sword light was bright and thick like pillars as it charged towards Kangji and the others. Attack. Kangji and the others also made their moves. 4 terrifying attacks were aimed at the ancestor of technique. Boom. Boom. A violent explosion sounded. The ancestor of technique's body retreated a few steps, but the attacks of Kangji and the others were all blocked by the ancestor of technique. He was only at a slight disadvantage. It really is a level 7 middle grade G. Oh. D artifact. D. And how could that brat have a level 7 middle grade divine artifact? This kid must have had some fortuitous encounter. Kangji, Zhou Xian and the others shouted. However, they did not suspect that Lu Ming had obtained the divine weapon from the cave abode. This was because the door to the cave abode was too difficult to break open. Even with so many people they would need to spend a lot of time to break it. How could Lu Ming break it? Moreover, they had searched the cave and found no other entrance. They only thought that Lu Ming had a fortuitous encounter from somewhere else. Lu Ming, follow me closely. The ancestor of technique said. Lu Ming nodded and followed closely behind the ancestor of technique. Let's see which one of you can stop me. The ancestor of technique's long hair flew in the air, and his sword chi was wild as it rushed towards Kangji's direction. Stop him. Kangji roared and charged towards the ancestor of technique. Zhou Xian and the others also launched their attacks. However, the ancestor of technique was controlling a middle grade level 7 divine artifact, and his battle prowess increased by a level. He was no longer afraid of Kangji and the other 3 joining forces. Both sides continued to attack and exchanged dozens of moves in an instant. However, the ancestor of technique was only at a slight disadvantage. Bang! In the end, the ancestor of technique defeated Kangji and brought Lu Ming out of the tight encirclement. I want to accompany you today. If you want to fight, well, fight another day. The ancestor of technique carried Lu Ming and flew into the distance. His voice could be heard from afar. Enet. Kangji roared endlessly, his face was filled with a sinister expression. Today was such a good opportunity, but the ancestor of technique had actually escaped. Furthermore, the ancestor of technique had also obtained a middle grade level 7 divine artifact, which greatly increased his battle prowess. This was extremely disadvantageous to them. What do we do? Zhou Xian's expression turned ugly. They did not pursue. They knew that even if they caught up, they would not be able to kill the ancestor of technique. If the ancestor of technique went all out, even if they could kill him, at least 2 of them would die. None of them wanted to die. Alliance, we must form an alliance, a real alliance. Otherwise we will be broken by the ancestor of technique one by one. Kangji gritted his teeth and said. All right. Zhou Xian immediately nodded. In the current situation, none of them were the ancestor of technique's match. They had to truly join forces and support each other if there was a situation. Only then could they fight against the ancestor of technique. Also, we have to break through this cave as soon as possible. As long as we get the treasures inside, we won't have to fear the ancestor of technique. Kangji said. That's right, attack immediately, Zhou Xian said. Then they immediately returned to the cave dwelling, planning to take a risk and try to enter the hurricane pass. Sage. The ancestor of technique brought Lu Ming and flew tens of thousands of miles away in the blink of an eye before he stopped. The ancestor of technique spat out a mouthful of blood and his face became paler. Senior, are you all right? Lu Ming was a little worried. It's okay, you'll be fine after regulating my breath. Kong Ji and the others probably won't dare to chase after us. Let's rest again. After saying that, the ancestor of technique took out a healing elixir and swallowed it. Then he started to heal himself. The ancestor of technique's injuries weren't very serious. Not long after, his complexion became much better. Lu Ming, it's all thanks to you this time. I'll return this divine weapon to you. The ancestor of technique smiled. He took out the level 7 middle-grade divine artifact and handed it to Lu Ming. Senior, you can keep this divine artifact for now. Lu Ming smiled but did not take it. How can this be? A middle-grade level 7G. Oh. D artifact is too valuable. How can I accept it? The ancestor of technique shook his head. Even he, Kong Ji, Zhou Xian and the others didn't have a level 7 middle grade G. Oh. D artifact. The ones they used before were all level 4 middle grade G. Oh. D artifacts. Senior, just take it as I'm lending it to you first. I can't use this divine artifact even if I keep it. Only you can use it to fight against Kong Ji and the others. Lu Ming said. Right now, the Yuanluo Palace and the Walkabout sect had joined forces, and the righteous army was all alone. Without a middle-grade level 7 divine artifact, the ancestor of technique might not be a match for the other party. Only with this divine artifact could he contend with the other party and make them fear him. Alright, I'll keep it for now. I'll return it to you when your cultivation improves. The ancestor of technique muttered to himself and did not decline. He also understood that Lu Ming was right. If he didn't have a level 7 middle grade G. Oh. D artifact, if Kong Ji, Zhou Xian and the others joined forces to deal with him, he would really be no match. Putting away the combat sword, the ancestor of technique brought Lu Ming and met up with the rest of the righteous army. Ancestor of technique, how's the situation? Should we kill our way over? We can't let the Yuanluo Palace occupy that expert's cave. The people of the righteous army said one by one. It doesn't matter. How is it possible for the Yuanluo Palace and the Walkabout sect to occupy this cave? Let's go back to the righteous army and spread the news that there's an expert's cave here. The ancestor of technique said. General is wise. Since we can't have it, they can't have it all to themselves. Ha ha, ha ha. The righteous army laughed. Then they returned to 7-Star Island and used the teleportation formation to return to the righteous army. Then they started to spread the news. Very quickly, the news of a deity's cave dwelling on the northern Shang star spread like a hurricane through the chaotic astral river, reaching the ears of every single power. What? It's actually a deity's cave abode. It's extremely rare in the chaotic astral river. I can't miss it. Looks like I'll have to make a trip there myself. In the chaotic astral river, all the powers, big and small, were alarmed. One expert after another hurried to northern Shang. In the chaotic astral river, divine realm experts are supreme existences. Their divine might can shake the endless starry sky. Currently, in the chaotic astral river, only the Yunfeng Pavilion has a single heavenly deity. The deity's cave dwelling was too attractive to the true G. O. D realm experts of the big and small forces. Not long after, experts arrived at the Qinjin mine on planet Northern Shang. All of them were true G. O. D stage existences. Moreover, the majority of them were powerhouses above the 4th stage true G. O. D realm. D. Enet D. Enfei Ming D. And righteous army. Kong Ji roared again and again. He was so depressed that he wanted to vomit blood. With so many experts here, how could they have a share? They could only follow the crowd. Even if there were treasures inside, they might not even get a share. Any force here would not be weaker than the Yuanluo Palace. Kong Ji really wanted to vomit blood. After he discovered this deity's cave dwelling, he didn't even get a single hair. Chapter 26 18 Qin Tian 13 clans. One by one, the experts began to enter the cave. However, the hurricane pus sage behind was incomparably dangerous. Some people found that the deeper they went, the more tunnels there were, crisscrossing each other. The further they went, the stronger the wind pus sages would become. Even a true G.O.D. expert wouldn't be able to get in. Later on, the pavilion master of the Yunfeng Pavilion, who was a heavenly G.O.D. expert, took action personally. He broke into the depths of the cave and was said to have obtained some treasures. As for what he had obtained, no one knew. This matter finally came to an end after the pavilion master barged into the cave abode and took the treasures. In the end, the Yuan Luo Palace and the Walkabout sect didn't get anything. Kong Ji and Situ Haonan were extremely furious. They wanted to kill the ancestor of technique and destroy the righteous army. But in the end, they didn't dare to act rashly. They were actively looking for allies, hoping to find more to destroy the righteous army. Of course, the ancestor of technique wasn't idle either. He was also looking for allies to fight against the Yuan Luo Palace and the Walkabout sect. Lu Ming could not help much in this regard. He could only focus on cultivation. In the hurricane pus sage of the G.O.D.S. cave abode, Lu Ming's cultivation level rose by 2 levels, and he reached the 7-star Heavenly Emperor level. Next, he only needed to consolidate his foundation and advance towards the realm of 10,000 elements returned to 1. At the same time, Lu Ming's comprehension of the battle character had also reached a peak after 2 years of intense battle with the lion-headed eagle beast in the hurricane pus sage. Now he could trigger the double combat power at any time. 100% success rate. However, the word battle in his sea of consciousness was unfathomable and mysterious. Lu Ming understood that he was still far from comprehending it. Right now he had only comprehended a tiny bit. If he continued to study, Lu Ming felt that he could trigger the tripled combat strength. However, it was not that easy to trigger the tripled combat strength. Lu Ming had reached a bottleneck and needed time to understand. In the blink of an eye, 3 years had said. After 3 years of cultivation, although Lu Ming had yet to attain Demi-G.O.D. level, he could feel that he was getting closer and closer to it. On this day, a piece of news was spread throughout the chaotic astral river, causing a violent shock. All the forces, big and small, went crazy and exploded. On this day, Lu Ming was cultivating when he received a message from the ancestor of techniques. The ancestor of techniques had something important and wanted to see him. Is there something important? Lu Ming was puzzled. Then he came to a hall in the righteous army and realized that there were already 5 to 6 people waiting there. The 5 or 6 of them were not very old. Their cultivation time should not exceed 10,000 years. They were all considered to be of the younger generation. Tong Shi was among them. Lu Ming. Tong Shi smiled and greeted Lu Ming. The others also nodded at Lu Ming. Lu Ming nodded in response. He then looked at Tong Shi and said, Miss Shi, may I ask why the general has summoned us? I don't know either. Tong Shi shook her head. The others were also confused. You're all here. At this moment, the ancestor of technique walked into the hall. General. Everyone bowed. No need to be so polite. The ancestor of technique waved his hand. You guys must be very curious. Why did I call you guys over in such a hurry? He asked. Lu Ming and the rest nodded. You guys should know that our chaotic astral river belongs to the Qin Heaven Star Field, right? The ancestor of technique said. Lu Ming and the rest nodded again. At the same time, he felt a little strange in his heart. Could the matter this time be related to the Qin Heaven Starfield? In the chaotic astral river, there are hundreds and thousands of forces, big and small, countless planets, and an incomparably vast territory. However, when compared to the Qin Heaven Starfield, there was no way to compare. The Qin Heaven Star region contained many galaxies, at least a few hundred of them. The chaotic astral river was only one of the many astral rivers in the Qin Heaven galaxy. Furthermore, it was the worst and most backward one. The number of experts was also the smallest. What did the ancestor of techniques gathering have to do with the Qin Heaven Starfield? The Qin Heaven Star domain is too vast. There are hundreds of galaxies and there are many races living there. There are countless experts. However, among these countless forces, other than a few terrifying races, the most powerful forces are the 13 clans. Qin Tian Starfield's 13 clans. Tong Shi and the other young men exclaimed in unison. Lu Ming's eyes flashed. He had read the records in the ancient books. The Qin Heaven Star domain's 13 clans were 13 extremely powerful, extremely long-established and extremely terrifying clans. It could be said that other than a few terrifying races, the 13 clans stood at the peak of the vast Qin Heaven Star Zone. These 13 sects were divided into 3 overlords and 10 top sections. Without a doubt, the 3 overlords were the strongest, followed by the top 10 sections. These 13 sects occupied half of the Qin Heaven Star region and had countless life planets. They had ruled the Qin Heaven Star region for countless years. Forces like the Righteous Heaven Army, the Origin Luo Palace, and the Walkabout sect were like ants in front of the 13 clans. Even the number 1 power in the chaotic astral river, the Yunfeng Pavilion, is no different from an ant in front of the 13 clans. They can be destroyed with a flip of their hands. To the people of the chaotic astral river, the 13 clans were merely a legend. They had only read about them in the ancient records. That's right. Every 1,000 years, the 13 clans of the Qin Heaven Star Zone will recruit a batch of disciples from the entire Qin Heaven Star Zone. Now the 1,000-year period is about to end again. The ancestor of technique said. At this point he paused. The Qin Heavenly 13 clans are recruiting disciples. The breathing of Tong Shi'er and the others became heavy, but they were also puzzled. General, I've read the records. Every 1,000 years, the Qin Heavenly 13 clans will recruit a new batch of disciples. However, they have never recruited any disciples from the chaotic astral river. What does this have to do with us? Tong Shi'er asked. The chaotic astral river was the most backward, remote and weakest among the many galaxies in the Qin Heaven galaxy. Those from various races and powers who can't survive or those who have committed crimes have all run to the chaotic astral river. Therefore, the chaotic astral river is a chaotic place where good and bad are mixed together. It's extremely chaotic and has always been looked down upon by the other galaxies. The Qin Heaven Star region's 13 clans have never accepted any disciples from the chaotic astral river. Therefore Tong Shi'er and the others had some doubts. This time it's different. The Qin Heaven 13 clans have announced to the world that they will be recruiting disciples from the entire Qin Heaven Star field soon. The chaotic astral river will be among them. The ancestor of technique said. Also for the chaotic astral river. Tong Shi'er and the other young men's breathing became heavy, and their eyes burned with fire. They were all excited. This time the Qin Heaven's 13 clans had actually opened their doors to the chaotic astral river for the first time ever. If one could join any of the Qin Heaven's 13 clans, that would be a heavenly opportunity. In the future one's cultivation level would definitely skyrocket and one would become a man above all. In the chaotic astral river, heavenly deities were synonymous with invincibility. However, in the Qin Heavenly 13 clans, heavenly deities were nothing. One could easily find a large handful of them. There were even many terrifying existences at the King realm in the Qin Heavenly 13 clans. Chapter 26:19 The ancestor of techniques requests such a powerful force naturally has an unimaginable amount of resources. The training conditions and environment are simply not something the chaotic astral river can compare with. Furthermore, if he were to be taken in as a disciple by a heavenly deity or even King, his future would truly be boundless. That's why I've summoned all of you here this time to let you partake. 1. P8 in the Qin Heaven Star region's disciple recruitment event. However, it's not that easy to join the Qin Heaven 13 clans. You'll have to go through layers of screening and it's extremely difficult. The ancestor of technique said. His eyes were also filled with antic. 1. P8. As long as someone in the righteous army joined the Qin Heavenly 13 clans and became a disciple of the clan, the righteous army's status in the chaotic astral river would rise. At that time, countless powers would come to curry favor with them. At that time, it would be a piece of cake for the Walkabout sect to destroy the Yuan Luo Palace. We will definitely do our best to join the Qin Heavenly 13 clans. Tong Shi'er and the others shouted, their eyes firm. They understood that this was a great opportunity for them and they had to grasp it. Alright, go back and make your preparations. We'll meet here in 10 days. We'll bring you to Cloud Peak City first. The first batch of screening will be carried out there. By the way, Lu Ming, you stay behind. After the ancestor of technique finished speaking, he looked at Lu Ming. Tong Shi'er and the rest left, leaving Lu Ming behind. Lu Ming was a little puzzled. He did not know why the ancestor of technique had asked him to stay. Lu Ming, when the Qin Tian 13 clans recruit disciples, they only look at talent and not cultivation. Therefore, with your talent, you'll definitely be chosen by the Qintian 13 clans. The ancestor of technique said. Lu Ming had mastered the path of domination. He would definitely be noticed with such talent. Lu Ming, which sect or force do you want to join? The ancestor of technique asked. I haven't thought about it yet. I don't know much about the Qin Heaven 13 clans. We'll see how it goes. I haven't thought about it yet. I don't know much about the Qin Heaven 13 clans. We'll see how it goes. Lu Ming said. Lu Ming, I have a request. The ancestor of technique muttered to himself for a moment before sighing. Senior, if you have something to say, please speak. Lu Ming said. I would like to invite you to join a sect. After the ancestor of technique finished speaking, he paused for a moment and continued. Among the Qin Heaven 13 clans, the strongest are the three overlord forces. The Yimo Academy, the Imperishable Sword Sect, and the Boundless Holy Land. However, the sect I want you to join is not one of the three overlords, but one of the top 10 sects, the Xian sect. Xian sect. Lu Ming had some doubts. You must be wondering why I let you join the three overlord forces. Sai, I have my own selfish motives here. Back then I had some dealings with the Xian sect. At this point the ancestor of technique told him about what had happened between him and the Xian sect. It turned out that after the ancestor of technique escaped from the Yuanluo palace, he had been traveling and tempering himself in the vast universe. He had once left the chaotic astral river and headed to other vast galaxies. In the process he met a woman and fell in love with her. However, this woman was a proud daughter of the Sky Mystic sect, and her father was an important figure in the Sky Mystic sect. Such a status was much higher than the ancestor of techniques. Naturally, the woman's father was strongly against their relationship and had forcefully brought the woman back to the Xian sect. He had once said that the ancestor of technique would not let the two meet as long as he could not break through to the heavenly G.O.D. realm. Sai, with my talent, I'm afraid it'll be difficult for me to reach the sky celestial realm in this lifetime. So, I have some selfish motives and want you to join the Xian sect. At this point the ancestor of technique took out an exquisite dagger and said, if you join the Xian sect, return this dagger to her if you have the chance. Alright, her name is Yuexin. Return it to her and tell her that I've let her down. However, this is my own selfish desire. If you don't want to join the Xian sect, I won't force you. The ancestor of technique sighed. His eyes were filled with nostalgia and helplessness. Senior, I agree. Lu Ming smiled and took the dagger from the ancestor of technique's hands. The matter with the ancestor of technique reminded him of the matter between him and Xianxia. In the Divine Wilderness continent, he and Xianxia had also gone through many trials before they got together. It was actually somewhat similar to the matter with the ancestor of technique. Moreover, Lu Ming did not really care which sector force he joined. He had Jing Ye's legacy, but he had yet to break the seal on Jing Ye's portrait. Once the seal was broken, Lu Ming believed that he would definitely gain something. Moreover, he still had the battle character formula to comprehend. The main reason he joined the sect was to obtain resources. All sorts of resources that would be helpful to his cultivation. Moreover, there was another reason. Although the Xian sect was one of the top 10 sects, it was ranked first. In this aspect he was not much worse than the three overlords. Lu Ming, thank you. The ancestor of technique cupped his fists solemnly. Senior, your words are too serious. Senior, I have some friends. Can they partake? 1. P. 8 in the Qin Heaven 13 clans, disciple recruitment meet. Lu Ming hurriedly helped the ancestor of technique up. He thought of Xianxia, Xianxia and Dandan. Of course you can. Anyone who hasn't cultivated for 10,000 years can partake. 1. Peak 8. I remember that your wife's talent is extremely shocking. I originally wanted to ask you to ask her to come along. However, you need to be at least at the first level of the Void G.O.D. realm to partake. 1. P. 8 in the selection. However, your combat strength is extremely strong, so you don't need to meet this condition. The ancestor of technique said. Do I need to be at the first level of the Void G.O.D. realm? Lu Ming's heart stirred. Initially he wanted to call Bubbles his disciples Lu Xianxiang, Ouyang Moli and the others. However, it seemed like only Xianxia, Xianxia and Dandan fit the criteria. Lu Ming bade farewell to the ancestor of technique and returned to his residence. After he returned to his residence, Lu Ming looked for Xianxia and Xianxia and told them about the recruitment of disciples for the Qin Heaven 13 clans. Dandan immediately raised her hands in agreement. Xianxia, she would naturally go wherever Lu Ming went. I agree. Xianxia agreed without hesitation. To Xianxia, she didn't care about heavenly des or divine kings. She didn't care about divine skills or divine techniques. What she cared about was the cultivation resources in the powerful forces and the excellent cultivation environment. That way her strength would skyrocket. During this period of time, all the major and minor powers in the chaotic astral river had become excited. They had gathered all the experts of the younger generation who met the requirements and were preparing to partake. 1. P8 in the Qin Heaven 13 clans, selection of disciples. In a large hall in the Yuanluo Palace, 8 young men stood in a row. Kong Long was there, and at the head of the table was the Yuanluo Palace Master, Kong Ji. This time all of you must do your best. At least one of you must join the Qin Heavenly 13 clans, even if it's the weakest clan among the 13 clans. That way the Yuanluo Palace's prestige in the chaotic astral river will increase greatly. At that time we won't even have to fear the Yunfeng Pavilion. Do you understand? Kong Ji said loudly. Understood. We will do our best. Kong Long and the rest shouted. Chapter 2621 Tower Challenge. The sect master of the Walkabout sect, Situ Haonan, had also gathered all of the young geniuses of the Walkabout sect who had fulfilled the conditions. At least one of you must join the Qin Heavenly 13 clans. Situ Haonan said loudly. His eyes scanned the 9 young men and women and finally stopped on a young man with a cold expression. This young man was also his son, Situ Shao's elder brother, Situ Feng. Looking at Situ Feng, Situ Haonan's eyes shone with hope. Situ Feng was obsessed with cultivation and had no interest in anything else. However, he knew very well that Situ Feng's comprehension ability was extremely shocking. With his shocking comprehension ability, there was a high chance that he would be chosen by the Qin Heaven 13 clans and taken in as a disciple. This was his only hope. Once Situ Feng joined the Qin Heavenly 13 clans, he would be able to destroy the righteous heavenly army with a flip of his hand. 10 days pass. Said in the blink of an eye. The geniuses of the various forces began to gather in Yunfeng City. Lu Ming, Xianxia, Xianxia, and Dandan also met up with the ancestor of technique Tong Shi'er and the others. It was worth mentioning that after Bubbles, Lu Ming's disciples Lu Xianxia and Ouyang Moli found out about this matter, they also clamored to go and take a look. They said that they wanted to see Lu Ming's elegance, so Lu Ming brought them along. After stepping into the teleportation array, they arrived at Yunfeng City a few days later. This was Lu Ming's second visit to Yunfeng City. Yunfeng City was as lively as usual. On the streets people came and went and the shops formed a forest. When they arrived at Yunfeng City, the Dharma ancestor brought them to the registration office of Yunfeng Pavilion and registered. Wasn't that easy to partake? 1. P8 in the Qin Heaven 13 clans, final disciple recruitment meet. They had to first go through the selection process of Yunfeng City. Only those who were selected by Yunfeng City would be recommended to partake. 1. P8 in the Qin Heaven 13 clans, disciple recruitment meet. Therefore, a large number of people would be filtered out from the beginning. After 7 days, those who are partake 1. P8ing in the selection, gather at the Yun Peak Square. The person in charge of registration said. Many thanks. The ancestor of technique cupped his fists and thanked him. After registering, they found an inn to stay in and waited. In a flash, 7 days had passed. Said. Lu Ming and the group headed towards the Cloud Peak Square. The Cloud Peak Square was extremely vast, and it could easily accommodate 1 million people. At this moment, a dense crowd had already gathered around the Yunfeng Square. There were all kinds of races. Lu Ming scanned the area and discovered dozens of races. Of course, most of them were only here to watch and were not qualified to partake. 1. P8 in the screening. Those who are partake. 1. P8ing in the selection enter the square. Those who are not qualified to partake. 1. P8 in the selection leave the square. In the sky above the square, there was a middle-aged man in battle armor. His skin was golden and he looked like a bronze man. This was the bronze skin race. In the Qin Heaven starfield they were considered a small race. However, the man's aura was so terrifying that many people couldn't breathe. He is much stronger than the Yuan Luo Palace Master and the ancestor of technique. Lu Ming's heart stirred. This burly man's cultivation was definitely above stage 6 true G. O. D. It was even possible that he was a terrifying existence above stage 7 true G. O. D. Many people couldn't help but retreat out of the square. Only a few young people who were partic 1. P. aiding in the selection walked into the square. You guys go, just do your best. The ancestor of technique warned. Lu Ming and the rest nodded and stepped into the square. As he stepped into the square, Lu Ming immediately noticed that there were a few eyes looking at him. Kong Long, Situ Shao. Lu Ming's gaze swept across the room and he found Kong Long and Situ Shao. At this moment, the two of them were looking at Lu Ming with sinister expressions. Lu Ming smiled faintly and ignored the two of them. As time passed, more and more people gathered in the square. In the chaotic astral river, there were close to 1,000 forces like the Righteous Heaven Army and the Origin Luo Palace, or perhaps even stronger. The smaller ones had 5 to 6 people, 7 to 8 people partic 1. P. aiding. Some of the bigger forces had dozens of people. For example, the Yunfeng Pavilion had sent over 200 people to partic 1. P. 8. All the forces had sent over 50,000 people. The pavilion master of the Yunfeng Pavilion has arrived. Suddenly a voice was heard. Everyone was shocked. The master of the Yunfeng Pavilion is about to descend. He is currently the strongest person in the chaotic astral river, and also the only heavenly deity. Buzz. And NBSP whoosh. In the distance, beams of light flew over and stood in the sky above the square. There were 5 people in total and 4 of them gave off terrifying auras. Their auras were many times stronger than the burly man from the Bronze Skin clan. However, these 4 people were all following behind a beautiful middle-aged woman. This beautiful middle-aged woman was a human. She did not seem to have any aura. This subordinate greets the pavilion master. However, the burly man from the bronze-skinned race and the other experts from the Yunfeng Pavilion all saluted the middle-aged beauty with great respect. The pavilion master of the Yunfeng Pavilion is actually a woman. At this moment, many people's hearts were moved and they looked surprised. For countless years, this is the first time the Qin Heavenly 13 clans have opened their doors to the chaotic astral river to recruit disciples. This is a supreme opportunity for all of you. Everyone, you must grasp it well. The clear voice of the Yunfeng Pavilion Master resounded in everyone's ears. However, all of you have to be mentally prepared. The Qin Tian 13 clans' standards for recruiting disciples are astonishingly high. Without a certain level of talent, it's impossible to be chosen. Therefore, we're going to conduct a selection today. Those who pass the selection will recommend you to partic 1. P. 8 in the subsequent tests of the Qin Tian 13 clans. At this point, the Yunfeng Pavilion Master waved his hand and a small tower flew out. The small pag was bronze in color. As soon as it flew out, it rapidly grew in size. In the end, it turned into a giant pag that floated in the air. It had a total of 81 floors. The selection process is very simple. You will have to challenge the tower. There are puppets on every level of the tower. You will pass as long as you can pass the 36th level. When you enter the tower, a token will be condensed and follow you. Once you pass through the 36th level, the token will light up. No one can cheat. 10,000 people in a group. Go in. The Cloud Peak Pavilion Master announced. It's just a tower challenge. This is easy. I'll go first. A burly young man was the first to soar into the sky and fly toward the gate of the giant tower. Let's go. I'll join you too. Immediately, figures rose into the air and flew toward the giant tower. When 10,000 people entered the giant tower, the gate of the giant tower automatically closed. Everyone waited patiently. When everyone flew into the giant tower, they could see that the first floor of the giant tower was shining. However, in just a few breaths, the second floor of the giant tower also glowed. This meant that someone had already reached the second level of the tower. But very quickly, the third, fourth, and fifth levels lit up. Lu Ming and the rest did not enter. They would take a look first. Chapter 2621 Shocking Elimination Rate. That's fast. Level 20 has lit up. Level 21. At the scene, people kept exclaiming. It was obvious that there were terrifying geniuses in this group of people who were extremely fast. Half an hour later, and suddenly the ski around the tower trembled, and a young serpent man appeared. There was a token floating above the young man's head, but it was dim. It was obvious that this young man had been eliminated. He had been teleported out before he could pass the 36th level. Eliminated, leave the square. The bronze-skinned man from before said. The serpent man youth's face was extremely unsightly. Sir, I was careless just now. Can you give me another chance? The serpent man youth shouted. He was truly unwilling to miss out on such an opportunity. If he could join the Qin Heaven 13 clans, he would be able to soar into the sky. Leave the square, I'll say it one last time. The bronze-skinned man said coldly, and a cold aura emanated from his body. The young serpent man shivered and didn't dare to stay any longer, quickly flying out of the square. As soon as he flew out of the square, the token above his head disappeared. Following that, people were continuously sent out from the surroundings of the giant tower. They were all eliminated. Those who had been eliminated had ugly expressions on their faces. They knew that they had lost a great opportunity. The pavilion master of Cloud Peak Pavilion and the others watched coldly. If he couldn't even pass as such a selection, even if he partook 1. Aided in the Qin Heaven 13 clan's disciple recruitment test, he wouldn't have a chance of passing. He would only be a joke. As time passed, more and more people were eliminated. The young men who had not entered the tower were a little nervous. However, the light on the giant tower was also getting brighter. The 36th level. Someone has passed, said the 36th level. Someone shouted. At this moment, the 36th level was already shining. However, the person who had passed said the test had not come out yet, so it was obvious that he wanted to continue. There was no rule in the pavilion master's mind that one had to come out after passing the 36th level. One could still continue after that. The higher one went, the stronger they would be and the more valued they would be by the Cloud Peak Pavilion Master. Sure enough, not long after, the 37th level also lit up. However, after the 36th level lit up, the speed of clearing the levels after that would be much slower. Furthermore, more and more people were being teleported out. In the end, nearly 9,000 people were teleported out, all of whom had failed the trial. However, following that, there were also those who had cleared the trial and were teleported out. The tokens on their heads glowed brightly, indicating that they had passed the trial. Many people looked at these people enviously. Those who had successfully passed the round also revealed looks of joy. Haha, this is a disciple of my Yellow Wind sect. He has passed, said the selection. That's a disciple of my Luyun school. He also passed, said the test. Outside the square, some people laughed in surprise. They were all experts from the major forces. Some people were happy while others were sad. However, the challenge wasn't over yet. Half a day passed, said before the last person was teleported out. This was a young man with a cold and arrogant expression. He had made it to the 46th level and was the first of this batch of people. He had a cold and arrogant look on his face as he scanned the surroundings, giving off the feeling of a princess. With such talent, there's a high chance that he'll be chosen by the Qin Heavenly 13 clans. It's very possible. The experts of the various forces around the square were envious. The people from the young man's force were all ecstatic. To be able to rank first out of 10,000 people, it was extremely possible that he would be chosen by the Qin Heaven 13 clans. That's because the total number of youths in the chaotic astral river who are going to partake 1. 8 in the selection process is only 50 to 60,000. Out of the first batch of 10,000, 9,000 were eliminated and only 1,000 or so said. The elimination rate was a total of 9 levels. Those who had not partook 1. Aided in the challenge were extremely nervous. Some of them were already sweating. However, Lu Ming, Xianxia and the rest were very relaxed. Next batch. The Cloud Peak Pavilion Master instructed. Immediately, another 10,000 people flew into the giant tower. Among them Lu Ming saw Kong Long, Situ Xiao and the others. After the 10,000 people flew into the giant tower closed and everyone waited patiently. The head of the Yuanluo Palace, Kong Ji, and the head of the Xiaoyao sect, Situ Haonan, looked at the tower nervously. Their eyes were filled with antic 1. Asian and anxiety. This time, after only about 20 minutes, someone was eliminated and sent out. After that, more and more people were eliminated. In the end, more than 9,000 people were eliminated. An MBSB buzz. More people were teleported out. Among them were Kong Long and Situ Xiao. However, the tokens above their heads were shining. It was clear that they had pus, said. The two of them were full of smiles and excitement. When he looked at Lu Ming, his eyes were filled with provocation. Brat, wait until I join the Qin Heaven 13 clans. I'll make you die without a burial ground. Kong Long could not help but send a message to Lu Ming. The corners of Lu Ming's lips curled up and he revealed a mocking expression. He then looked in another direction and ignored Kong Long. Ha ha ha. Outside of the plaza, Kong Ji and Situ Haonan laughed loudly. They were so excited that their mouths cracked open. Especially Kong Long and Situ Haonan. They even looked at the ancestor of technique provocatively, but the ancestor of technique ignored them. The ancestor of technique was aware of the talents of Lu Ming, Xian Yanqing and Xian Yinjuan. Kong Long and the others were nothing. The challenge continued. Some people had not come out yet. As time passed, said some people had already passed, said the 45th level and were heading towards the 46th level, closing in on the first place of the previous batch. Not long after, the 46th floor lit up, and they had already caught up with the best result of the first batch. However, it was clear that it had not stopped. The challenge was still going on. Then the 47th, 48th and 49th levels gradually lit up. Amazing. There's actually someone in this group who pass, said the 49th level. Amazing. I wonder which faction he's from. There's a high chance that he'll be chosen by the Qin Heaven 13 clans. Look, it's the 50th floor. In the square, countless people were staring at the giant tower and discussing. Even the eyes of the Cloud Peak Pavilion master lit up. Feng Er hasn't come out yet. Could it be that Feng Er is inside? At this moment, Situ Haonan was excited. That was because his son Situ Feng had not come out. The others had all come out. Could it be Situ Feng who was challenging the tower? Thinking of this, Situ Haonan was extremely excited. Look, it's level 51. Someone shouted. Everyone was shocked that he had already reached the 51st floor. They were all very curious about who could make it to the 51st floor. However, the 51st level was not the limit. 52, 53. A day later, the 55th level lit up. It was almost 10 levels higher than the first place of the previous batch. This was extremely shocking. At this moment, the void around the giant tower trembled and a young man's figure appeared. The token above the young man's head was shining like a sun. Chapter 26-21. As big brother. It's my big brother. Seeing this young man, Situ Xiao cried out in ecstasy. This young man was Situ Feng. All the people around the square looked at Situ Feng with all kinds of emotions. Not bad. The master of Yunfeng Pavilion looked at Situ Feng with satisfaction. As the most powerful force in the chaotic astral river, the Yunfeng Pavilion has the right to recommend geniuses to take part in the Qin Heaven 13 clans disciple recruitment test. Furthermore, she would also reward anyone who was chosen by the 13 clans. Therefore, the more geniuses there are in the chaotic astral river, the happier she is. With Situ Feng's talent, there was a high chance that he would be chosen by the Qin Heaven 13 clans. He might even be chosen by the 3 overlords. Becoming a disciple of one of the 3 overlord forces was undoubtedly a difficult task. However, once one joined, their future would be boundless. The eyes of the Cloud Peak Pavilion master were burning with pus. Shaun. Pa, it's Feng. It's my son Situ Feng. It's my son. At this moment, Situ Haonan finally reacted and laughed out loud in surprise. Brother Situ, congratulations. On Kong Jia's face, he managed to squeeze out a smile and congratulated Situ Haonan. In his heart, he was extremely jealous. With Situ Feng's talent, if he joined the 13 clans and even caught the eye of some important figure, then the Footloose sect's status would rise like a boat with the tide. He was jealous in his heart, but on the surface he still wanted to build a good relationship with Situ Haonan. Brother Situ, so that heaven's favorite is your son. Your son's talent is truly shocking. Not bad, not bad. Brother Situ, I'll treat you to a drink some other day. You must do me the honor. Brother Situ. Immediately, the leaders of the major forces around Situ Haonan greeted him with a smile. It was obvious that he was trying to curry favor with Situ Haonan. What a joke. Situ Feng's talent was too shocking, and there was a high chance that he would be taken in as a disciple by the 13 clans. If he didn't suck up to Situ Haonan now, when else could he wait? Everyone. You're too polite. Right now. Might not be chosen by the Qin Heaven 13 clans. It's not certain yet. Situ Haonan laughed out loud. Although he said that Situ Feng might not be chosen by the 13 clans, his expression was extremely excited, as if he could already see Situ Feng being chosen by the 13 clans or even taken as a disciple by some big shot. His heart was at ease. This Situ Feng actually has such amazing talent. In the crowd, the ancestor of technique was also shocked. He had heard of Situ Feng's name before. It was rumored that Situ Feng was a martial arts fanatic who was obsessed with cultivation. He didn't expect Situ Feng to be so talented. However, at the thought of Lu Ming, he was relieved. No matter how talented he was, he could not be compared to Lu Ming. Lu Ming controlled the path of domination. Once he became he would turn into the divine energy of domination. That was divine-grade divine energy. Even in the vast Qin Heaven star domain, there were probably not many who could control divine-grade divine power. This batch of people in general was about the same as the first batch. About 90% of them were eliminated and only about 1,000 people pass, said the trial. 2 from the Yuanluo Palace and 3 from the Walkabout sect had pass, said. Lu Ming's expression was calm and he was unmoved. The second batch is over. The third batch go in. The pavilion master of the Cloud Peak Pavilion ordered again. Let's go in. Lu Ming looked at Xianxia and the rest. All right. Xianxia and the others nodded, then rose into the air and flew into the giant tower. As soon as Lu Ming flew into the giant tower, the surrounding environment changed immediately. He appeared in a vast secret room. There was no one else around him except him. This was within Lu Ming's expectations. This giant tower was obviously set up with a large formation. As long as one entered, they would most likely be alone and not with others. A token appeared above Lu Ming's head. And NBSP at this moment, the secret room began to light up and several figures appeared. These figures were all puppets condensed by the formation and they charged toward Lu Ming. Lu Ming held the long spear in his hand and swept it across, shattering the puppets one by one. The first level pass, said. There was a staircase in the secret room. Lu Ming climbed up the stairs and arrived at the second floor. Sure enough, another puppet was formed. It was stronger than the first level, but it was not difficult for Lu Ming. With a sweep of his spear, the puppet crumbled and Lu Ming ascended to the third level. In this way, Lu Ming advanced all the way with an irresistible force. Third level, fourth level, fifth level. Very soon Lu Ming reached the 30th level. At this point the puppet's strength was already quite strong. However, to Lu Ming it was still not difficult. At most his speed would be slightly reduced. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. The long spear trembled and rays of spear radiance shot out. The puppets exploded one after another. Lu Ming stepped onto the 31st level. Then it was the 32nd and 33rd levels. Very quickly Lu Ming reached the 36th level. After he had defeated all the puppets on the 36th level, the token above his head began to glow. This meant that Lu Ming had pass, said the test. Enough. Lu Ming smiled faintly and did not continue. Instead he walked toward a door of light at the side. Lu Ming did not plan to continue. It was enough. As long as he pass, said the test, there was no need to attract too much attention. His goal was to join the Qin Heaven 13 clans. Right now it was just a screening. It would be fine as long as he could pass. Lu Ming stepped into the light door and was teleported out of the light door. He was outside the giant tower. After Lu Ming came out, a few gazes immediately swept toward him. That included Kong Long, Situ Xiao, Kong Ji and the others. He was transported out so early, and the brightness of the token is not even as bright as mine. He probably just pass, said through level 36. Kong Long sneered. That's right. I thought he had a lot of talent, but he's just so. Situ Xiao also sneered. Kong Ji and Situ Haonan were also discussing. I didn't expect this kid from the righteous army to succeed in clearing the trial. However, the brightness of the token is ordinary. There's almost no hope of him joining the Qin Heaven 13 clans. Kong Ji sneered and deliberately raised his voice for the ancestor of technique to hear. The corners of Lu Ming's lips curled up slightly. He could not be bothered. He was very clear about Lu Ming's talent. If he had given it his all, he would not have come out so early. It was obvious that Lu Ming did not want to be too ostentatious. It was fine as long as he could pass the test. Lu Ming did not attract any attention. Not long after Lu Ming came out, Xian Yanqing, Xian Yanjuan and Dandan came out one after another. Naturally, they had successfully cleared the level. However, the brightness of the token was similar to Lu Ming's. Obviously, their thoughts were similar to Lu Ming's. It was enough to just pass the test. After some time, Tong Shi-er also appeared. Tong Shi-er had also said. The brightness of her token was much brighter than Lu Ming and the rest. She had said more than 40 levels. Chapter 2622 Envoy. After a period of time, Lu Ming's group of people had also finished challenging the levels. However, there was no one as amazing as Situ Feng in this group. The highest level they had said was the 45th floor, which was the same as the highest level of the first group. Then it was the 4th and 5th batch. There were also top heaven's favorites in the next two groups, but only one person said the 50th floor. No one could surpass Situ Feng. This made Situ Feng the center of attention, and he became the number one person among the younger generation of the chaotic astral river. As for Situ Haonan and the walkabout sect, they were naturally the subject of much flattery. A group of leaders surrounded Situ Haonan to curry favor with him, and his face was filled with smiles. My son Situ Feng is such a genius. My Footloose sect will definitely rise. Once my son joins the Qin Heaven 13 clans, the righteous heaven army will be destroyed with a flip of his hand. Situ Haonan thought to himself, and his eyes turned cold. After the 5th batch, the selection process had ended. Those who said were in high spirits, and those who didn't were listless. High up in the sky, the pavilion master waved her hand and the giant pag shrank. She then put it away. Alright, this round's selection has ended. A total of 5,050 people have said the selection. At this point, the pavilion master paused for a moment and continued, however, this is only the screening I set. Don't think that just because you said it, you can take part in the 13 clans recruitment test. You still need to the test of the envoys from the 13 clans. Only if the envoys think you will you truly Do you understand? Many people's hearts tightened. It turned out that they still needed to the test of the 13 clans. Otherwise, they wouldn't be considered qualified and might not be able to take part in the test. Alright, all of you go back first. Come back here 3 days later. At that time, the messenger will descend and personally examine all of you. The pavilion master then turned around and left. In the square, the crowd also dispersed one by one. After Lu Ming and the rest returned to the inn, they waited quietly. 3 days said by in the blink of an eye. 3 days later, they returned to the square again. The square was still surrounded by people. However, only Lu Ming and the rest who had successfully cleared the level last time could enter the square. Soon, all 5,060 people had gathered. They're here. Someone suddenly spoke. Everyone's eyes looked in one direction. There were a few people walking in the air from that direction. One of them was the Yunfeng Pavilion Master. However, the Cloud Peak Pavilion Master was not walking in front. Instead, he was walking behind an elder in a brocade robe with a smile on his face. The elder in the brocade robe was tall and and he stood with his hands behind his back. He exuded a majestic aura that gave off a powerful pressure. An expert. This elder was definitely an extremely terrifying expert. He was even stronger than the pavilion master of Yunfeng Pavilion. Without a doubt, he was a heavenly god. Everyone did not need to guess to know that this was the envoy sent by the Qin Heaven's 13 factions. Emissary Lin, these are the heaven's favorites that my chaotic astral river has selected. The Cloud Peak Pavilion Master stood in the air and introduced the old man to the old man with a smile. In front of such a person, even if she was the Cloud Peak Pavilion Master, she did not dare to be careless. The elder in the brocade robe swept his gaze across Lu Ming's group of 5,060 people. He frowned slightly and said, "This is your chaotic astral river's heaven's pride? You're really too weak." The contempt in his words was self-evident. Too weak. Many people's hearts tightened. This was still too weak. These 5,060 people could be said to be the strongest group of people in the younger generation of the chaotic astral river. However, in the eyes of the brocade-robed old man, they were too weak. Some of the young heaven's favorites were very confident. Now that they were being looked down upon, they felt a little indignant. With such a standard, he still wants to partake. 1. P. 8 in the Qin Tian 13 clans test. Isn't that a little laughable? The brocade-robed old man added. This time even the Cloud Peak Pavilion Master was embarrassed. Said. His face turned red. Alright, I'll cut to the chase. If you really want to partake. 1. P. 8 in the Qin Heavenly 13 Clans Disciple Recruitment Test, you'll have to pass. Me. With that, the elder in the brocade robe waved his hand and a stone door flew out. As soon as the stone door flew out, it grew in the wind and became 1,000 feet tall. With a loud bang, it landed on the square. As long as you can pass through this door, you'll be considered to have pass, said my test. That's why it'll be difficult for you to partake. 1. P. 8 in the Qin Heaven's 13 Clans Disciple Recruitment Test. The brocade-robed elder said. It was that simple. Many people were stunned. As long as he could pass through this door, he would be able to pass. Does the assessment of the elder in brocade definitely wasn't simple. Then many people thought this way. Their eyes flickered and many thoughts flashed through their minds. Who's first? The brocade-robed elder asked. However, for a moment no one stepped forward. Everyone had the same thought. They didn't understand the assessment of this door and wanted to wait for others to step forward and get a feel for it. The crowd looked at each other. No one is going forward? The brocade-robed old man asked with a hint of displeasure in his eyes. I'll do it. At this moment Lu Ming spoke and stepped forward. It didn't matter if he went early or late, so he might as well go earlier. Moreover, Lu Ming was very confident. He was confident that he could pass it. If he could not pass it, then probably no one else in the entire chaotic astral river could. Lu Ming stepped out and came to the stone door. Everyone's eyes were fixed on him. This kid. He actually dares to be the first to go on stage. How stupid. I hope he doesn't pass. Outside the square, Kong Ji sneered. This brat is really stupid to scout for others. In the square, Kong Long sneered. Bang. Bang. Lu Ming did not stop. He walked at a constant speed and stepped into the stone door. Buzz. Just as Lu Ming stepped through the stone door, the door glowed and runes appeared. Then a few beams of crimson divine light shot towards Lu Ming at lightning speed. Buzz. And NBSP whoosh. Lu Ming made his move. His palm was like a knife, continuously slashing out and destroying the rainbow lights. It was easy and there was no difficulty at all. That's when the elder in the brocade robe saw Lu Ming's attack, his eyes widened in shock and confusion. What kind of power is that? It's somewhat like the legendary path of a master, but how is it possible in a mere chaotic astral river? The brocade-robed elder muttered. The reason why he did not recognize Lu Ming's Tao of Domination was that Lu Ming had found a way to change the Tao of Domination, such as its color. Now that Lu Ming was using the Tao of Domination, the color was dark purple, which was not so obvious. As long as Lu Ming did not unleash his full power, it would not be fully revealed. Lu Ming continued to step forward. The stone door shone brightly and more light burst out, bombarding Lu Ming. However, Lu Ming casually waved his palm and shattered all the divine light. It's very simple. Lu Ming smiled and took another step forward. This time, more divine lights came, but they were all easily destroyed by Lu Ming. After this attack, there were no more attacks. Lu Ming crossed the stone door easily. Chapter 2624. Very simple? Pass. The brocade-robed old man's voice rang out, and at the same time many thoughts ran through his mind. This person is unique. I must pay close attention to him. Although he was not very sure that Lu Ming had mastered the path of domination, the path of domination was no small matter. If it was true, it would be terrible. He's passed. Nest, it's actually so simple. I thought it would be difficult. Seems like it's even easier than the tower challenge. It seems like the pavilion master's test is even more rigorous. That's right. If that kid can pass, he'll definitely pass. Seeing that Lu Ming had passed the test easily, many people relaxed and smiled. They all thought that the test set by the elder in brocade was very simple. Who's next? The elder in the brocade robe said. "I'll do it. I'll do it." Immediately, hundreds of people shouted and rushed toward the stone gate. Since the assessment was so simple, he had to go up earlier to show off. One by one. The elder in the brocade robe said coldly, and a powerful aura pressed down, making the hundreds of young men stop. "You first." The elder in brocade pointed at a handsome young man. "Ha, I'll go first." The young man laughed and rushed towards the stone door, as if he was going to rush through it in one breath. Buzz. After he stepped through the stone door immediately lit up. A few rays of divine light danced out and blasted towards the young man. The young man looked relaxed. Divine power burst forth and he waved his palm. He wanted to learn from Lu Ming and destroy the divine light with ease. However, the young man's expression changed as soon as he came into contact with the divine light. His face was full of disbelief, and then he screamed miserably as his body flew backward and fell heavily on the ground. He spat out a large mouthful of blood and his body twitched non-stop. What? Many people were stunned. How could this young man be sent flying without even being able to withstand the first attack? Just now, when Lu Ming passed the test, it was clearly very easy. What was going on? Many people were dumbfounded. The young man who had been sent flying struggled to get up and swallowed a healing pill to stabilize his injuries. Failure next. The elder in the brocade robe said coldly. "Wait a moment, senior, wait a moment." The young man who had failed shouted. "What's the matter?" The brocade-robed elder said. "Senior, it's not fair. I don't think it's fair. When that kid passed through the stone door, the attack wasn't that strong. Why did it become so strong when I passed through?" The young man cried out, feeling wronged. He could clearly see that Lu Ming's cultivation was only at the transformation void martial stage while he was at the second level of the void god stage. There was no reason why Lu Ming could pass while he could not. "Impudent! You dare to doubt the envoy?" The Cloud Peak Pavilion Master shouted coldly. The young man immediately broke out in a cold sweat. "It's fine." The elder in the brocade robe raised his hand to stop the Cloud Peak Pavilion Master. Then he glanced at the crowd and said, "Let me tell you, my test is absolutely fair. However, I can also tell you that the attack of this stone door will be different according to the person who enters. The stone door will be adjusted according to the person's age, the level of divine power, and so on. Only those with higher overall talent can pass through. Ordinary people will not be able to pass through. Do you understand? Also, the Qin Heavenly 13 clans never look at your cultivation level when recruiting disciples. Because to the Qin Heavenly 13 clans, cultivation level has no meaning. Even if you are a heavenly deity to the Qin Heavenly 13 clans, it wouldn't be of much use. The Qin Heaven 13 clans take in disciples based on talent and potential." The voice of the elder in the brocade robe sounded in everyone's ears. Indeed, to the Qin Heavenly 13 clans, the difference in cultivation didn't mean much. In their eyes, there was no difference between a first-level void god realm and a ninth-level void god realm. What they wanted was talent and potential. However, the handsome young man still looked unwilling. On what basis could a transformation void martial stage person pass while he, who was at the second level of the void god realm, couldn't? Seems like you're still unwilling to give up. However, do you really think that you can defeat him just because your cultivation is higher than his? The brocade-robed elder said indifferently. "Of course I can defeat him. I only need 3 moves. No, I only need 1 move to suppress him." The handsome young man shouted and looked at Lu Ming indignantly. "Oh. Since that's the case, I'll let you have a battle and make you admit your defeat. Little fellow, are you willing to fight?" The elder in the brocade robe looked at Lu Ming. "No problem." Lu Ming smiled and walked to the handsome young man. "Kid, I'll suppress you with 1 move and let everyone know who's qualified to take part in the 13 clans disciple recruitment test." The handsome young man said arrogantly. A cold look flashed in his eyes. Then he rushed out and made a move with all his strength. A huge palm print fell on Lu Ming. However, Lu Ming's expression was calm. He stood there without moving as if he did not see the other party's attack. When the palm force of the other party was close, Lu Ming pointed with his finger. The finger force was like a spear ray, directly penetrating the opponent's palm print and shooting into the opponent's shoulder. The handsome young man let out a blood-curdling screech as his shoulder was pierced through. The powerful force sent him flying to the edge of the square, and he fell heavily on the ground, spitting out a large mouthful of blood. This the scene suddenly became quiet. One move, just one move, Lu Ming defeated the handsome young man. Just like when he passed through the stone door, he did so easily. What a powerful genius. Many people were shocked. Lu Ming was only at the transformation void martial stage, but he was able to defeat a second-level void god realm expert. It was truly unbelievable. After Lu Ming pointed with his finger, he turned around and walked back. He was only a second-level virtual god who could control ordinary divine power. To Lu Ming, he was not challenging at all. What a powerful divine power. If he breaks through to the martial god realm, even if it's not divine-grade divine power, it'll be king-grade divine power. I didn't expect that the chaotic astral river would actually have such a powerful heaven's favorite. The elder's eyes brightened. Humph. Kong Long, Situ Xiao and the rest snorted coldly. They were very displeased to see Lu Ming in the limelight. Situ Feng, on the other hand, looked calm. No one could tell what he was thinking. Do you see this? My stone door is absolutely fair. The assessment will continue. A loss is a loss and a win is a win. If anyone has any more doubts, they will be disqualified immediately. The brocade-robed elder announced in an overbearing manner. Earlier on, he had agreed to the handsome young man's challenge mainly because he wanted to see Lu Ming fight. Otherwise, if the handsome young man dared to doubt him, he would have long been chased away. The test continued. Another young man stepped forward, but he also failed and was sent flying out of the stone door. Chapter 26-25 Myriad Spirit Planet. As the number of people taking the test increased, the crowd was shocked to find that the difficulty of the test in the stone door was shockingly high. The elimination rate was shockingly high. Out of 10 people, only one person could pass. At this moment, everyone understood that they had completely underestimated Lu Ming. Lu Ming could pass through easily, not because the difficulty of the stone door was low, but because he was talented and powerful. Situ Feng has made his move. Someone suddenly spoke. Situ Feng walked toward the stone door calmly. A combat sword appeared in his hand and sword light burst forth. Every time he stabbed, it would hit nothing. It didn't collide with the divine light from the stone door, but the divine light would dissipate one by one. Situ Feng also said the test easily. Good comprehension. The elder in the brocade robe nodded slightly. After Situ Feng, it was Kong Long, Situ Xiao and the others. Kong Long and Situ Xiao both controlled king-grade divine power. Although it was not easy, they still said. However, the other two from the Yuanluo Palace and the Walkabout sect had failed. This way, only 3 people from the Yuanluo Palace and the Walkabout sect said the test. Soon, Dandan, Xianxia, Xianxia, Tong Shi'er, and the others also stepped forward. As the divine turtle of the world, Dandan also had amazing potential after becoming AG. She had also mastered king-grade divine power and said the assessment. Xianxia and Xianxia loosened their grip, which made the old man's eyes light up again. Following that, Tong Shi'er also said the test, but the rest of the righteous army had all failed. In this way, the righteous army, Lu Ming and the rest, a total of 5 people said. This made Kong Ji, Situ Haonan and the rest's expressions turn ugly. The Stone Gate assessment continued for a few days. Finally, all 5,060 people had been tested. 500 people. In the end, only 500 people said the test of the stone door. The others all failed. The success rate was shockingly low. In the entire chaotic astral river, there were close to 1,000 powers and 50,000 to 60,000 young heavens pride experts. In the end, only 500 people said the test. A 1 in 100 chance. Right, my test is over. The 500 of you can head to the Qin Heaven Star System's Myriad Spirit Planet to take part in the Qin Heaven 13 Clans test. Take this jade token. With that, the elder in the brocade robe waved his hand and 500 jade tokens flew out, flying toward Lu Ming and the others. They stretched out their hands and with the help of the jade token, each of them got one. The jade token felt warm and heavy in his hand. There were lines of tiny runes on it and it looked very beautiful. On one side of the jade token there was a picture of ruins. The picture of the ruins on this jade plate is the symbol of the chaotic astral river. Different galaxies have different pictures and symbols. The brocade-robed elder said. Many people smile bitterly. Indeed, in the eyes of many powerful and wealthy galaxies, The chaotic astral river is nothing but a wasteland. Now use your own blood to engrave your names on the jade tokens. This jade token will then be bound to you. Only you can use it. Even if others take it, they won't be able to use it. This is the proof that you will be able to partake. 1. 8 in the Qin Tian 13 clans. Assessment. The brocade-robed elder said. Lu Ming forced out a drop of blood and wrote the 2 words, Lu Ming, on the jade tablet. After he was done, the blood seeped into the jade token and disappeared. The jade token was completely bound to Lu Ming's aura. Other than Lu Ming, no one else could use it. This was to prevent anyone from taking action against the partic. 1. Hing their jade tokens and impersonating them. In this way, even if he had the jade token, it would be of no use. Alright, the Qin Heaven 13 clans test will be held on planet Myriad Spirit in 3 months. You can make your way there in 3 months. However, I can tell you in advance that don't think that you can join the Qin Tian 13 high school just because you pass, said my test. It's extremely difficult to join the Qin Tian 13 clans. It's already not bad if 20 of you can join the Qin Tian 13 clans. The elder in the brocade robe turned around and left with the pavilion master and the others. It's already not bad to have 20 people join? Many people's hearts trembled and their expressions turned grave. Everyone had their own thoughts as they left the place. Let's go back to the Jingtian army. I'll make some arrangements and take you to planet Thousand Spirits, the ancestor of technique said. After that, everyone returned to True Heaven Star through the teleportation formation. Lu Ming returned to his residence and explained the matter to his parents. He also bade his parents farewell. If he were to join a sect on planet Myriad Spirit, he probably wouldn't be back for a while. The ancestor of technique had also settled the matters of the righteous army. Then he set off with Lu Ming and the rest. Lu Xianxia and Ouyang Moli remained on True Sky Star. However, Bubbles kept pestering Lu Ming and wanted to follow him. Lu Ming brought Bubbles along. Lu Ming, Xian Yanqing, Xian Yanjuan, Dandan, Bubbles, Tong Shi, and the ancestor of technique. A total of 7 people headed towards planet Thousand Spirits. Myriad Spirit Star was located at the center of Qin Heaven's galaxy. It was at least a few dozen galaxies away from the chaotic astral river. It was simply too far away. Even if they took the teleportation formation, it would take a long time. They first arrived at Cloud Peak City and took the super long-distance teleportation array in Cloud Peak City to be teleported to the next galaxy. And NBSP afterward, they used super long-distance teleportation arrays to travel at a faster speed. But the divine crystals they used up were also astonishing. He couldn't just build a teleportation formation for nothing. Every time he built a teleportation formation, he would have to use up divine crystals. Even so, it still took them nearly 2 months to get to planet Thousand Spirits. There was less than a month left before the 3-month deadline. What a dense divine chi. Standing on planet Thousand Spirits, he took a deep breath and felt the divine chi rush into his body. He felt very comfortable. The training environment here is much better than the chaotic astral river. The difference is huge. Myriad Spirit Star was located in the center of the Qin Heaven Star Zone. It was the biggest trading planet in the Qin Heaven Star Zone. This planet didn't belong to any single power. Countless powers, big and small, were doing business here, and it was extremely prosperous. The Qin Heavenly 13 Clans recruitment test had always been held on Myriad Spirit Planet. The location was the largest city on planet Thousand Spirits City. After Lu Ming and the group arrived at Wanling City, they found an inn to stay in. As time passed, more and more people arrived in Wanling City. On the streets, one could easily see groups of young sovereigns. Some of them had extremely terrifying auras. At a glance, they seemed to be extremely powerful monsters. The Qin Heaven Star region had a total of several hundred galaxies. The chaotic astral river was the worst and the one that no one paid attention to. Any of the other galaxies are more prosperous and powerful than the chaotic astral river. The number of Heaven's Pride experts in the other galaxies is also far beyond the chaotic astral river. In the chaotic astral river, only 500 people have pass, said the test, and can take part in the exam. However, in the other galaxies, even the worst would still have thousands of people who could take the assessment. The higher ones had thousands or even tens of thousands of people. Chapter 26:26. Assessment rules. Every 1,000 years, the Qin Heaven 13 clans would recruit disciples. It was a grand event in the hearts of countless geniuses in the Qin Heaven Star region. It was also the day when countless geniuses would soar to the sky. Soon there were only 3 days left before the assessment. On this day the sound of bells rang throughout the city. Let's go. It's a gathering order from the Qin Heaven 13 clans. It's time to announce the rules of the assessment. The ancestor of technique said. He led Lu Ming and the rest in the direction of the bell. In the middle of Wanling City, there was a vast open It was originally a huge market, but during this period of time, the market was removed and used for the assessment. This open was too big. It would not be a problem to accommodate hundreds of millions of people at the same time. Very quickly this open was already filled with people. Not only were there young Heaven's Pride experts who wanted to take part in the assessment, but there were also many people who wanted to watch the fun. In fact, there were more people who came to watch the show than those who partook. 1. Aided in the assessment. Buzz. Buzz. At this time a few figures suddenly appeared in the sky and the scene quieted down. There are 3 more days before the examination. Now I'll explain the details of the examination and the rules. In the sky an imposing man spoke. The scene was silent. Everyone listened quietly, afraid to miss any details. Each of you should have an ident. 1. Tai Jade token to partake. 1. 8 in the examination. The middle-aged man took out a jade card. It was almost the same as the one Lu Ming and the rest had. The only difference was the pattern on it. 3 days from now, when the time for the test is up, as long as you are within Wanling City, no matter where you are, this jade token will bring you to a virtual We call it the Dream S. In the Dream S, everything is virtual. Only your consciousness can enter it. Furthermore, your cultivation will be suppressed to first level Void D realm in the Dream S. If you're already at the first level of the Void D realm, then it won't change. If you're not at the first level of the Void D realm, it won't change either. However, although your cultivation has been suppressed to first level Void D realm, the attributes of your divine power will not change. If you control King Grade Divine Power, it will still be King Grade Divine Power inside. If you control Sacred Grade Divine Power, it will still be Sacred Grade Divine Power. There are 2 rounds in the test. In the first round, the Dream Realm will be divided into 20 areas. All the part 1. Ants will be evenly divided into 20 areas and fight. However, there's one thing that you can rest assured about. Before you enter the 20 regions to fight, you will enter a special region. There are many incomplete divine skills there. These incomplete divine skills can be cultivated to the point where they can burst out with power even if you're at the first level of the Void D realm. From now on, you will have a year to comprehend the incomplete divine skill. Then you will enter the 20 regions and fight to determine the ranking. This time we've calculated that the entire Qintian galaxy, hundreds of galaxies, has a total of about 1 million people partake. 1. Aiding in the assessment. At that time each region will have 50,000 people. 50,000 people will kill each other. The rule is that every time you kill an opponent you will get 1 point. At the same time you will take half of the opponent's points. Each person has 2 lives, which is 2 chances. In the end, only the top 100 of each region can partake. 1. 8 in the next round. Those who don't make it into the top 100 will be eliminated. The middle-aged man explained all of the rules in one breath. After he was done, he stopped and allowed everyone to digest them. I see. Lu Ming's heart skipped a beat and he made a conclusion in his heart. The assessment this time was very simple. It was divided into 2 rounds. There would be around 1 million people partake. 1. Aiding. The jade card would bring them into the Dream S. If they were killed in there, they wouldn't really die. Their cultivation would be suppressed to first level ethereal D realm. Of course, for people like Lu Ming who were below first level virtual D level, they could only keep it as it was. Then they would have a year to comprehend the incomplete divine skill. and the 1 million or so people would enter 20 regions. Each region would have 50,000 or so people, and the 50,000 or so people would fight each other to obtain points. Only the top 100 people would be able to enter the next round. Furthermore, each person had 2 chances. This was also for the sake of fairness. It would be a bit of a waste if some geniuses were killed by a powerful enemy from the beginning. There are actually over 1 million people partic. 1. P. Aiding. Lu Ming was also secretly shocked. After a while, when everyone had digested the information, the middle-aged man continued. Those who are eliminated in the first round might have a chance to join the Qin Tian 13 clans. As long as you perform well and obtain higher points, you will have a chance to be selected by the 13 clans. Of course, the better you perform, the more attention you'll receive. Alright, let's get to the point. The specific rules will be shown on your jade tokens. Take a good look at it. Do you have any questions? After the middle-aged man finished speaking, he swept his gaze across the entire scene. Senior, I have a question. At this moment, a young man spoke. Speak. The middle-aged man said. Senior, why did you suppress your cultivation to the first level of the Void G? Oh. D realm. If I cultivate to the 6th level of the Void G. Oh. D realm, won't I be unable to unleash my full power? The young man said. 6th level of the Void G. Oh. D realm? Do you think you're a genius? The middle-aged man asked. The young man didn't say anything, but his expression clearly showed that he agreed. Cultivation will never represent one's talent. I can tell you that within the Qin Heaven 13 clans, there are plenty of people who have reached the 6th level of the Void G. Oh. D realm within 10,000 years of cultivation. You can find them all over the streets. There are many true body realm experts who have cultivated for less than 10,000 years. Some of them have even reached the heavenly G. Oh. D realm. What is a 9th level Void G? Oh. D realm expert like you. Would the Qin Heavenly 13 clans lack a 6th level Void G? Oh. D realm expert? As long as the Qin Heavenly 13 clans give the order, how many 6th level Void G? Oh. D realm existences can the Qin Heavenly Star System gather? The middle-aged man's repeated questions made the young man speechless. There are many ways to increase one's cultivation. There are heavenly treasures, fortuitous encounters, or long periods of cultivation. Therefore, cultivation is of no use to the Qin Heaven 13 clans. When the Qin Heaven 13 clans recruit disciples, they look at talent, potential, and cultivation. There are plenty of ways to raise it. It'll suppress all of your cultivation to the 1st level of the Void G. Oh. D realm and give you 1 year to test your talent and comprehension. Only those with high talent and comprehension can join the Qin Heavenly 13 clans. Do you understand? The middle-aged man said. The young man's face turned red, but he didn't say anything. He came from a big force and had consumed countless natural treasures to reach his current cultivation level. However, in the Qin Heavenly 13 clans, would there be a lack of natural treasures? Chapter 26-27 Entering the Dream S. P. Many people also revealed thoughtful expressions. Indeed, one's talent and comprehension could only be seen under such an assessment mechanism. In the martial G. O. D realm, talent and comprehension were the most important. That was why they kept their divine power levels and gave them a year to comprehend the incomplete divine skill before they started fighting. This way, those with high Shin power and high comprehension would be able to stand out. Mastering high-level divine power was a talent. However, one's perception was also very important. This was because the level of Shin power was not innate but could be cultivated. Some terrifying and exquisite divine skills could cultivate king-grade divine power, sacred-grade divine power, and even divine-grade divine power. Within the Qin Heaven's 13 clans, there were all such terrifying divine techniques. As long as one cultivated it to an extremely high level, one would be able to cultivate a high-level divine power. It was said that when the 3 overlord forces, divine techniques, were cultivated to the highest level, they could cultivate divine-grade divine power. Thus, if a person's Shin power level was not high but his comprehension was amazing, his future would be limitless. Of course, there were some people who did not cultivate these divine skills and naturally cultivated high-level Shin power, and there were many of them. Lu Ming, Tong Xier, and the others were all like this. Of the disciples that the Qin Heavenly 13 clans wanted to recruit, One had to have a high level of divine power, while the other had to have extraordinary comprehension. Also, let me tell you all. Some of you came from some major powers and might have already cultivated some incomplete divine skills. However, in the Dream-S, you are not allowed to use the incomplete divine skills that you have already cultivated. You can only use the incomplete divine skills that you have comprehended in the Dream-S. Once you violate this rule, you will be eliminated. The Qin Heavenly 13 clans will never recruit you again. Do you understand? The middle-aged man's voice reverberated throughout the entire area. Understood. Many people shouted. All right, I'll stop here. Good luck. Then the middle-aged man and the others turned around and left. After the middle-aged man and the rest left, the rest of the people in the square also slowly dispersed. Lu Ming and the rest also returned to their lodgings. Not long after he returned to his residence, a large amount of information appeared on the jade token. It was all about the assessment and some rules. Lu Ming and the rest looked at it carefully again and then made preparations actively. There were only 3 days left before the assessment began. Not only them but everyone else was actively preparing for it. A group of people stood in a huge courtyard. They were all tall and burly as if they were made of metal. These people were a branch of the King Kong race, a terrifying race in the primeval universe. The Vajra race was a very powerful race in the primeval universe. It ranked in the top 10,000 among the countless races in the primeval universe. There was a list of 10,000 races in the primeval universe, which listed the 10,000 most powerful races in the primeval universe. The Diamond race was one of them. However, the main clan of the King Kong race wasn't in the Qin Heaven Star domain. The Qin Heaven Star domain was only a branch. At this moment, dozens of Vajra race members were surrounding a young Vajra race member like stars surrounding the moon. This young Vajra race man was even more burly and was 3 meters tall. Golden Sage, you're a rare genius that only appears once every 100,000 years in the Qin Tian branch of the King Kong race. This time, you must rank in the top 3 in the Qin Tian 13 clans assessment and join one of the 3 overlords. An elderly King Kong ordered. Don't worry, clan leader. It's just the top 3. I'm 100% confident. The Golden Sage said with a confident smile. On a mountain in Wanling City, this place had been bought by a group of Tigermen. The Tigermen tribe was only a small tribe in the entire primeval universe. They were far from being ranked in the top 10,000. However, in the Qin Heaven Star Zone, the Tigermen tribe's strength could not be underestimated. At the peak of the mountain, a young Tigerman roared towards the sky. The wind and clouds surged and his aura was wild. This time the top 3 know, I'm aiming for the first place. The young Tigerman's eyes were like lightning, and he was filled with the aura of a king. To the north of Wanling City there was a lake. It was not big but it was very clean. It was like a mirror and one could clearly see the fish in the lake. There was a simple pavilion by the lake. At this moment there were 2 figures in the pavilion looking at the calm lake. One of them was a white-haired old man in a long white robe. He looked like a sage. The other person was a young man who looked to be in his 20s. This young man was handsome and was also wearing a white robe, like an elegant young master. Are you confident about this time's Qin Tian 13 clan examination? The old man asked the young man. The young man was called Ling Huyi. According to the rules this time, I'm 100% confident that the first place will be mine. Ling Huyi said. His face was calm without any pride as if he was just stating a fact. Good. With your talent, as long as you give it your all, the first place will definitely be yours. Moreover, you'll definitely be able to enter the 3 overlord forces and even receive special training. The white-haired old man stroked his beard and looked at Ling Huyi with satisfaction. If they did not enter the Dream-S and fought outside, Ling Huyi would not have such an advantage. However, the rules this time gave him 1 year to comprehend and cultivate an incomplete divine skill, which was Ling Huyi's biggest advantage. Ling Huyi's comprehension was the strongest that the old man had seen in countless years. Although Ling Huyi's divine power level was not high, it was because he lacked opportunities and divine skills. However, Ling Huyi's terrifying comprehension could make up for it. And NBSP the old man was filled with antic. 1. Asian. As long as Ling Huyi joined the three overlord forces and was nurtured, he would definitely be able to reach a terrifying realm. In the blink of an eye, 3 days said. On this day, Lu Ming, Xianxia, Xianxia, and Tong Xia were gathered in a room. They sat cross-legged in a circle. There was no need to go to a specific place to partake. 1. P8 in the assessment. As long as they were in Wanling City, the ident 1. Tai Jade card would bring them into the Dream S. Buzz. Boo. At that moment, the jade tokens in Lu Ming, Xianxia, and the others' hands trembled slightly. They emitted a bright light and floated above their heads. Then a beam of light fell from the jade token and enveloped them. Then Lu Ming and the rest felt that their spirits and souls had been drawn out and flew into the jade card. It was pitch black in front of them. Almost instantly, their eyes lit up as they opened their eyes. When they opened their eyes, they found that they were on a huge platform, and in front of the platform was a stone tablet. Countless stone tablets stood on the vast land. Each stone tablet was 100 meters tall, and there were some words and pictures carved on each stone tablet. There were too many steals. There was no end to them. Is the incomplete divine skill on this stone tablet? Lu Ming's heart stirred. They were going to stay here for a year to comprehend and cultivate the incomplete divine skill. Chapter 2628 Tiger Tribe's Provocation. At this moment, Lu Ming noticed that a badge had appeared on their chests. On the badge was a picture of a ruin that was made of jade. This was their symbol. People who came from different galaxies all had a badge with a different pattern on their chest. There's no change in my cultivation. Then Lu Ming carefully sensed his body and realized that his cultivation level had not changed at all. He was still a 7-star celestial emperor, and the power of domination was surging. Of course, their weapons and storage rings could not be brought in. In reality, weapons were not allowed in this compet. 1. Tie-in. If one wanted to use a weapon, they would have to use divine power and rely on their own abilities. Is your cultivation base being suppressed? Lu Ming looked at Xianxia, Xianxia, Tong Xia, and Dandan. I've been suppressed to the first level of the Void G. Oh. D realm, but my divine power level hasn't changed. Xianxia said. Me too. Tong Xia also nodded. There's no change in mine. Dandan said. His cultivation was at the first level of the Void G. Oh. D realm, so there was no change. Lu Ming nodded. It was indeed the same as what the rules said. At this moment on the platform, many people flashed and rushed toward the stone tablets. Time was limited. They only had a year's time. A year's time to comprehend an incomplete divine skill was too short. They had to seize the time to find an incomplete divine skill that was suitable for them and cultivate it. With every moment he cultivated, he might be able to reach a higher level of maturity. When he fought with others, he would have an advantage. Millions of people rushed into the vast stone tablets, looking for a divine skill that suited them. Lu Ming and the rest also rushed down the platform and headed for the stone tablet. Soon they arrived at the first huge stone tablet. At this moment, 2 young men were already looking at the stone tablet carefully. On the stone tablet there were lines of words and pictures. This was a palm technique that leaned towards the feminine side. Lu Ming and the rest took a few glances and then directly ignored it. It was not suitable. They continued forward. As they walked, they attracted the attention of many people. The 2 sisters, Xianxia and Xianxia, were simply too beautiful when they walked together. The 2 of them looked exactly the same, and it was hard not to attract attention. What beautiful women, and they look exactly the same. Look at their badges, they are from the chaotic astral river. I never thought that there would be such a beautiful woman in the chaotic astral river. Who is that person? He's actually walking together with such a beautiful woman. Many people around them were discussing as they looked at Xianxia and Xianxia with fiery eyes. Tong Xia could be considered a stunning beauty, but when she stood next to Xianxia and Xianxia, she paled in comparison. Ever since Xianxia and Xianxia broke through to the Battle D realm, their temperament had become more and more extraordinary. Even people with similar looks could not compare to them. When many people looked at Lu Ming, they were filled with envy, jealousy, and hatred. Although Dandan was still following Lu Ming, she looked like a 16 or 17-year-old teenager and was wearing a Daoist robe. Naturally, she was ignored by the others. Xianxia and Xianxia's faces were cold. They ignored the gazes of others and focused on finding a suitable divine skill. What beautiful women! Not far away, a dozen burly figures were looking at Xianxia and Xianxia with fiery eyes. These dozen people were all elites of the tiger clan. The tiger men did not have the appearance of a tiger from head to toe. They looked very similar to humans, but they had stripes on their faces. They were tiger stripes. Each of them was more than 2 meters tall and had thick hair. How can I miss such a beauty? Let's go and get to know her. One of the tiger men youths with golden fur laughed and walked towards Lu Ming and the others. The other dozen or so tiger men youths laughed and followed. Their figures flickered and more than 10 tiger men youths blocked Lu Ming and the others. Lu Ming and the rest also stopped. The dozen or so young men from the tiger tribe scanned Xianxia, Xianxia and Xianxia with burning eyes. Chaotic astral river? I didn't expect that there would be such a beauty in the chaotic astral river. We are the heaven's pride of the tiger clan. My name is Hu Mao. Beautiful lady, how about we be friends? The golden-furred tigerman youth revealed a confident smile. Lu Ming, Dandan and the rest almost burst out laughing. Tiger fur? This name was quite profound. However, Xianxia didn't want to laugh. With a cold expression she scolded, "Get lost. You have a strong temper. However, my tiger clan likes people with strong tempers the most. Brothers, don't you?" Hu Mao didn't mind and teased him instead. Not bad, the fiercer the temper the better. It's fun to play with. Ha ha ha. The other young tiger men laughed. At the side, the other people looked over with an expression of watching a show. I already told you to get lost, didn't you hear me? Are you deaf or what? Get lost immediately. At this moment Lu Ming berated. The smile on the tiger youth's face instantly disappeared, and a cold light flashed in his eyes. Kid, what did you say? A mere piece of trash from the chaotic astral river dares to speak to us like this? Are you tired of living? I'll give you 3 seconds to get lost. Get as far away as you can. What right do you have to stand next to 2 beautiful women? The dozen or so young men of the tiger tribe all roared as their bodies flashed with cold killing intent. 3, 2, 1. Lu Ming said disdainfully, counting the time for Xianxia. 3 seconds later Lu Ming stepped forward and held Xianxia's hand. He said in disdain, "A bunch of idiots." Provocation, disdain and mockery. This was a blatant mockery. Killing intent exploded from the bodies of the tigermen youths. Kid, kneel down and admit your mistake. Slap yourself 100 times. Otherwise it'll make you die without a burial place. The tiger was furious and revealed its uneven fangs. Oh. If you have the ability, then do it. Lu Ming said in disdain. You, Hu Mao and the other young men of the tiger tribe glared at Lu Ming with wide eyes. However, they did not dare to make a move. The assessment had not started yet. During this 1 year of comprehending and cultivating the incomplete divine skill, no one was allowed to make a move. Whoever made a move would be disqualified. If not for that, Hu Mao and the rest would have long torn Lu Ming into pieces. Kid, you've got guts. Just you wait. Don't meet anyone from my tiger tribe in the assessment 1 year from now. Otherwise you'll die a terrible death. Hu Mao spoke coldly before turning to the other tigermen. Brothers, go and inform the other clan members. If they meet this person in the assessment, kill him without mercy. Kill him ruthlessly. Alright, there are so many people in my tiger tribe. He's dead for sure. He'll die a terrible death. The other tigermen all called out. Chapter 2629, Comprehending an Incomplete Divine Skill. A bunch of idiots. Little Qing, let's go. Lu Ming pulled Xianxia, Xianxia, Xianxia and Dandan directly past Sing by the tigermen tribe and heading deep into the forest of stone steels. The dozen or so tiger tribe youths nearly exploded in anger, and they gritted their teeth so hard that they made cracking sounds. This brat is too impulsive. He actually dared to offend the heavens favorite of the tigermen race. I reckon that in the chaotic astral river he's a peak-grade heavens pride expert and is used to being arrogant. However, in a mere chaotic astral river he's a tyrant. In the entire Qintian starfield he's nothing. That's right. The tigermen tribe is a large tribe in the Qin heaven star domain. There are hundreds of star rivers in the Qin heaven star domain, and the tigermen tribe occupies one of them. They are extremely powerful. I heard that there are thousands of tigermen tribe geniuses partic. 1. aiding in the 13 clans' assessment this time. That's right, there are indeed thousands of people. Even if they are divided into 20 regions, there will definitely be a large number of people from the tiger tribe in each region. I also heard that there is a peerless genius in the tiger tribe who can control sacred grade divine power. That kid will die a miserable death. It's not wise to show off your power in front of a beauty. The surrounding people who had seen this scene were in a heated discussion. These voices naturally reached Lu Ming's ears. However, Lu Ming only smiled faintly and did not take it to heart. At that time, when he was divided into 20 areas to fight, he would be more than happy if the Tigerman tribe came to find trouble with him. Giving him points, what was there to be unhappy about? Lu Ming and the rest wandered around the stone tablets, looking at each of them. Not long after, Xianxia stopped in front of a stone tablet. There was a sword technique carved on the stone tablet, and with just a glance, it seemed as if a holy sword light was bursting out. It's a pretty good sword technique. I'll choose this one, Xianxia said. Then he stood under the stele and began to read it carefully. Lu Ming and the rest continued to search. This forest of stone steles was extremely large and contained a vast number of incomplete divine skills. An incomplete offensive divine skill, an incomplete defensive divine skill, an incomplete movement divine skill. It had everything. After more than a day, Dandan and Tong Shi'er had found suitable incomplete divine skills and started to cultivate them. They'll practice this sword technique. Xianxia walked to a stone tablet. This stone tablet also recorded a sword technique. The sword technique was sharp and fierce, and demonic chi soared into the sky. Both Xianxia and Xianxia were good at swordsmanship, so they each chose one. Lu Ming was left alone. He continued to wander around. Lu Ming realized that most of the people had chosen the incomplete attack-type divine skills. That's right, even if it was an incomplete divine skill, the difficulty of cultivating it would definitely be extremely shocking. They only had 1 year, so they naturally had to choose to cultivate attack-type divine skills to increase their attack power so that they could kill their opponents as soon as possible in the assessment a year later and obtain points. Lu Ming wandered around for a long time. This one. Lu Ming came to a stone tablet. This stone tablet recorded an incomplete spear technique. Moreover, there was no one under the stone tablet. Lu Ming simply chose this. Immediately, Lu Ming began to read it carefully. This spear technique didn't have a name. In fact, all the incomplete divine skills here didn't have names. They were all evolved from complete divine skills by some experts of the Qin Heaven 13 clans. To the experts at the peak of ethereal D realm and above, it had no practical use. Those experts could already cultivate the complete divine technique. However, it was still very useful for the cultivation of experts below the peak of the void D realm. What an exquisite divine skill. After studying it, Lu Ming felt emotional. Shen skills were the exquisite use of Shen power. They were powerful and very exquisite. It was much more difficult to comprehend than the various techniques in the heaven realm. The incomplete divine skill before him had a total of 7 stages. However, it was extremely difficult to cultivate the first stage. Lu Ming abandoned all distracting thoughts and focused on his comprehension. This comprehension lasted for a month. In a month's time, Lu Ming had not even learned the basics. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. Lu Ming condensed a long spear with his dominator's power. The long spear vibrated at a strange frequency, sometimes whipping and sometimes stabbing forward. The spear's radiance flickered. However, Lu Ming stopped halfway through his cultivation. No, it's still not right. Once this spear technique is successfully cultivated, each spear strike can trigger layers of force. The force will be superimposed and the power will be infinite. There will also be many different changes, but I still can't find that feeling. The divine power is circulating incorrectly. Many thoughts ran through Lu Ming's mind as he summarized what he had learned from his previous cultivation. Half a day later, Lu Ming started to comprehend again. The difficulty of cultivating an incomplete divine skill was too high. Even with Lu Ming's comprehension and talent, it was already so difficult to comprehend it. One could imagine the difficulty for the others. Time flew by and another month said. Buzz. The long spear in Lu Ming's hand swept out and a terrifying roar burst out in the air. It rang 3 times and then disappeared. Success. I finally stepped into the first stage. Lu Ming revealed a look of joy. After more than 2 months of hard work, Lu Ming had finally cultivated the incomplete divine skill to the first level. At the first level, a single strike of the spear would have 3 levels of power exploding out in an instant. The power was extremely shocking. At the same time, there were 3 changes contained within, making it difficult to grasp and guard against. If one cultivated it to the second level, one spear could have 5 levels of power and 5 changes. The higher the level of cultivation, the stronger the power. Continue. Lu Ming continued to study. After cultivating to the first stage, the difficulty of cultivation became even greater. For any divine skill, the later it was, the more difficult it would be. If even the initial stage was so difficult, one could imagine how difficult it would be later on. Lu Ming was focused on his cultivation and did not care about the outside world. Half a year later, Lu Ming finally broke through to the second level of this spear technique. At this point, Lu Ming and the rest had been here for 8 months. There were still 4 months to go before the assessment began. 4 months pass. Said in the blink of an eye. The 1-year period was up. Unfortunately, Lu Ming's spear technique was still stuck at the second level and had not reached the third level. Buzz. 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 All of a sudden, a buzzing sound rang out in the sky. In the sky, a series of symbols appeared and they were extremely colorful. It's about to start. It's finally starting. Many people were whispering. Some people were nervous, but some people revealed looks of antic. 1. Asian. Suddenly, pillars of light appeared in the sky and enveloped everyone. Then everyone flew into the sky along the pillars of light and disappeared. The next moment, Lu Ming realized that he had appeared in a room. This place. Is this the area for the assessment? Lu Ming muttered. This assessment would be divided into 20 different areas. More than 1 million people would enter 20 different areas and fight. As for which region they would enter, it was completely random. Chapter 2630 battle begins at this moment. In Wanling City, the market where the news was announced a year ago was already full of people. Countless people had gathered here. At this moment, 20 huge screens appeared in the sky above the openness. On these 20 huge screens there were names. On each screen there were more than 50,000 names. All of them were the names of the Partic. 1. Ants. Behind each name there was a corresponding galaxy. For example, Lu Ming's name appeared in the 20th zone. Behind the name it was marked with the words, Chaotic Astral River. Xianxia was in the first region, while Xianxia was in the third region. Tongxia was in the 10th region and Dandan was in the 18th region. Quick, find out which district Konglong is in. Also Feng Shao is in that area. In the crowd, Kongji, Situ Haonan and the others started to search. With their eyesight they could naturally see 1,000 things with a single glance. Their speed was amazing and it didn't take long for them to find the area where Konglong, Situ Shao, Situ Feng and the others were. This time, over 1,000 people had come to the chaotic astral river under the leadership of the master of the Yunfeng Pavilion. They had all come to watch the battle. The ancestor of technique was also among them, not far from Konglong and the others. They weren't the only ones. People from the other galaxies were also looking for the heavens favorites from their own factions. At the moment the names appeared randomly, but once the fight started the names would be arranged according to the score. The one with the highest score would be in first place until the end of the 3 months. The top 100 geniuses in each region would be the victors, and the others would be eliminated. They only looked at the points, not whether they were killed. As long as you had enough points to rank in the top 100, you could advance even if you were killed. It's starting, the 6th region. Who has points so fast already? 3 points. Someone shouted. In the beginning each of them only had 1 point. 1 point for each person they killed. In other words, Huya had already killed 3 people. In the other areas the Golden Sage is not any slower. The killing has started. Many people have ACCU, Mulat points. The names on the 20 screens kept flashing. Some names would appear in the first, second or even higher positions. The corresponding points would also appear behind the names. There were more than 1 million names flashing non-stop. Only the experts present could see them clearly. If it were an ordinary person, they would have been dazzled with a single glance. The 20th region. Lu Ming opened the door and walked out. Did I just appear in a city? Lu Ming guessed that he was now in a courtyard. He could see other tall buildings in other places. Wait, we can't fly in this area. Lu Ming was about to soar into the sky to observe the situation when he suddenly felt that his body was as heavy as a mountain. He could not fly at all. Flying was prohibited in this area. Boom. Suddenly, a violent roar came from a tall building not far away. The building rumbled and the walls exploded. Lu Ming saw two figures engaged in a fierce battle. The two of them had similar combat strength. In the intense battle, it was difficult to determine the winner. Bang. At this moment, the door of the courtyard that Lu Ming was in was blasted open. Broken wood flew in all directions and a tall and burly figure walked in. The person glanced at the badge on Lu Ming's chest and revealed a sinister sneer. A piece of trash from the chaotic astral river just happened to become the first person I killed in my first point. Bang. Bang. The man stepped forward and condensed a saber with his divine power, slashing it at Lu Ming. This was an incomplete divine skill that he had cultivated. The blade light was extremely fast and filled with a brutal aura. Lu Ming's face was calm. He condensed a long spear with the power of the ruler in his hand and thrust it out. Whoosh. The spear was as fast as lightning and in the blink of an eye 5 changes occurred. The other party wanted to block it but for a moment he did not know how to block it. Puchi. Lu Ming's long spear pierced through the area between the opponent's eyebrows. The other party's eyes were wide open and his face was full of disbelief. Initially he had wanted to kill Lu Ming and let him be the first point he had obtained. He did not expect to die in Lu Ming's hands in one move. How could a person from the chaotic astral river be so powerful? I'm sorry, but what you said is exactly what I wanted to say. It's your honor to contribute your first point to me. Lu Ming smiled faintly. Then he shook the long spear and the other party's body was torn into pieces, turning into energy and dissipating. Of course, there were 2 chances this time. The other party could still resurrect in other places and continue to fight. If he died a second time, he would have no more chances. The points would be the same. After killing one person, the badge on Lu Ming's chest suddenly glowed with a faint light. A message appeared in Lu Ming's mind. Lu Ming, 20th region. From the chaotic astral river. 1 point. Ranking, 28560. So this badge has this use. Lu Ming smiled. This way he would be able to know his ranking at all times. 3 months is enough. Lu Ming smiled and walked out of the courtyard. After walking out of the courtyard, they arrived at a wide street. On both sides of the street there were all kinds of buildings. At this moment the outcome of the battle had already been decided. One of them was killed but the other was injured. He didn't dare to stay any longer and fled in the dark. Buzz. Lu Ming's figure moved and he rushed up to a house. Then he started to run around the room. It was very dangerous to do so. It was easy to be targeted by others. However, Lu Ming did this on purpose. Instead of looking for those people one by one, it was better to let others find him. As expected, someone made a move. From one of the buildings, a figure pounced on Lu Ming like an arrow. At the same time, a sharp sword light stabbed at Lu Ming's forehead. Good. Lu Ming fired a shot with his backhand. Clang. The long spear hit the sword light of the other party. The other party's body shook violently and was thrown back. Blood spurted out of his mouth and his eyes were full of disbelief. He could clearly sense that Lu Ming's cultivation was only at the transformation void martial stage and had not reached the void G.O.D. stage. As for him, although his cultivation base was suppressed here, he was still at first level void G.O.D. realm. However, he was sent flying by Lu Ming and suffered serious injuries in an instant. Kill. Lu Ming stomped his feet heavily and his figure shot out. At the same time, a sharp spear gleam pierced through the void and killed the other party in the air. He was killed easily. Lu Ming's expression did not change. The divine power that the other party controlled was just ordinary divine power. Although Lu Ming's cultivation level was not as high as the other party's, the other party was suppressed to first level virtual G.O.D. level so he could easily kill him. This was under the premise that he could not use the battle formula. If he could use the battle formula, Lu Ming's abilities would be even more shocking. Chapter 2631 Chaotic Slaughter. In this place, only one's own divine power and the incomplete divine skills that one had comprehended before could be used. Of course, one's own combat skills and combat awareness could also be used. He couldn't even use the battle formula. In the outside world, the battle character formula played a huge part in Lu Ming's ability to cross so many realms and kill his enemies. Even if he did not trigger the doubling of combat strength, casting the battle formula would greatly increase Lu Ming's combat strength. Now that he could not use the battle formula, it would have a huge impact on Lu Ming's combat strength. However, Lu Ming had the ruler's power, so he was not afraid of any opponent. After killing the other party, Lu Ming's points increased by 1 point and became 2 points. His ranking also rose by a few thousand places and he was now at 24897. This was just the beginning. Every point difference could make a huge difference because many people only killed one person and obtained 1 point. Later on, when everyone's points increased, the number of points they gained would slow down their ranking. Lu Ming continued to run on the roofs to attract others. To be honest, Lu Ming's cultivation and his chaotic astral river badge could really lower one's guard. When the others saw that he came from the chaotic astral river and was at the void transformation stage, they immediately treated Lu Ming as a free point. How could they hold back? They all attacked. In fact, there was even a prodigy with king-grade divine power who attacked Lu Ming, but he was killed by Lu Ming one by one and turned into Lu Ming's points. In terms of divine power, these people were not as strong as Lu Ming. Furthermore, their incomplete divine skills were only at the first stage, while Lu Ming's incomplete divine skill had already been cultivated to the second stage. How could they be Lu Ming's match? Lu Ming's points rose to 23 points very quickly. His ranking also soared to more than 2,600. He was getting closer and closer to the top 100. 1000 Spirit City. That's fast. Lu Ming's speed of improvement in the 20th zone is so fast. It's indeed shocking. He's already in the 2000s. It hasn't been long, but if he continues to improve like this, he has a chance of getting into the top 100 in the 20th region. I remember that Lu Ming should be from the righteous army. Some people in the chaotic astral river exclaimed. Then many people looked at the ancestor of technique with envious expressions. Even the Yunfeng pavilion master looked at his patriarch in surprise. However, the ancestor of technique's expression was calm. In his heart, Lu Ming was definitely going to join the Qin Heaven 13 clans. If those who controlled the ruler's power could not join, who else could? This is just the beginning. Don't be happy too early. That's right. This compet. 1. Tian will last for 3 months. If we keep such a high profile now, our points will be reduced by half if we are killed. As long as he could find a place and comprehend it properly, he would be able to make a breakthrough. As long as his incomplete divine skill reached the 3rd level, his strength would increase greatly, and he would be able to kill his opponents faster. Lu Ming's eyes scanned the area and he rushed towards a small alley. The city that Lu Ming was in was extremely huge. Although Lu Ming had covered a large area over the past few days, he had only been active in a small area of the city. After making his way through a few small alleys, Lu Ming arrived at a remote courtyard. He entered the courtyard and closed the door. Lu Ming condensed a long spear with his dominator's power and began to cultivate. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. The long spear was constantly brandished and thrust out. Lu Ming fumbled and lysed carefully. His understanding of this spear technique was getting deeper and deeper. Killing. It was not only the 20th area where Lu Ming was fighting intensely. The other areas were also fighting non-stop. Some people were directly teleported out after being killed twice. In the sky above Wanling City, the rankings on the 20 screens were constantly changing and flashing. However, gradually, a few names became more and more eye-catching, even firmly occupying the first place in different regions. Like the tiger teeth of the tiger men, the golden sage of the King Kong race, Yang Chong, Ling Huyi. These few names had occupied the first place in their respective regions not long after the compet. 1. Tian started and they had not changed since. Huya is a heaven's favorite of the Tigerman tribe that only appears once in 100,000 years. It's said that once he became a martial G. He mastered the divine grade divine power. He's extremely powerful. This time he's very likely to be in the top 3. The golden saint of the King Kong race isn't bad either. He also controls divine grade divine power. And that Yang Chong is also a genius who can control the sacred grade divine power. Sacred grade divine power. He's truly a peerless genius. Many people were discussing and sighing. In the Qin Heaven star system, most of the living beings could only control ordinary divine power after breaking through to the martial G. D realm. Only an extremely small number of people could control king-grade divine power. Such people were already considered pretty good geniuses. As for Palm Force sacred grade divine power, there was very little of it. There were not many in the entire Qingtian starfield. Although the level of divine power could be cultivated through some divine techniques, those divine techniques were extremely rare and the difficulty of cultivating them was also extremely shocking. Without exceptional comprehension and talent, it was very difficult to gain anything. Chapter 2632 Breakthrough 1 had to know that within the Qin Heavenly 13 clans, there were divine techniques that could cultivate divine-grade divine power or even divine-grade divine power. However, over the long years only a few of them were able to do so. Who is that Ling Huyi? I've never heard of this before. Indeed, I've never heard of it either. He might be a new genius. However, he is definitely not on the same level as Golden Sage Huya and Yang Cheng. That's right. The crowd looked at the ranking on the screen and discussed. In the blink of an eye, Lu Ming had been cultivating the incomplete divine skill in seclusion for 1.5 months. Half of the 3-month period had said. For 1.5 months, Lu Ming had been focused on comprehending the incomplete divine skill and did not go out to hunt. Naturally, his ranking dropped rapidly. Haha, that Lu Ming can't do it anymore. His points have not changed for 1.5 months and his ranking has dropped to more than 5,300. I knew it. He definitely can't make it into the top 100. That's right. Previously he was just lucky. I think he encountered some weaklings, which was why he managed to obtain some points. As time passes, the weaklings will be eliminated and those who remain will be the strong. He must be looking for an opportunity to hide and not dare to make a move. Weaklings are weaklings. They definitely won't be able to enter the top 100. Kang Ji and Situ Haonan both looked at the ancestor of technique and mocked him. Look, Feng has entered the top 100 and his ranking is still rising. He's 92-81. Suddenly Situ Haonan's eyes lit up. Because at this moment, Situ Feng's ranking in the 9th region had suddenly skyrocketed. Originally, Situ Feng's ranking had been outside of the 100th place, but it had suddenly soared all the way to the 72nd place before it stopped. I knew it. With Feng Er's talent he would definitely be able to enter the top 100. As expected, he must have killed an expert just now and obtained a large number of points. Situ Haonan laughed out loud in excitement. The pavilion master of Yunfeng Pavilion nodded his head. Situ Feng had far surpassed, said the others in the tower challenge test, and she had high hopes for him. Look, Xianxia is in the top 100. Xianxia is in the top 100 too. Suddenly, an old man beside the pavilion master of the Cloud Peak Pavilion shouted. The crowd looked over and saw that Xianxia and Xianxia had indeed made it into the top 100. The galaxy behind their names was naturally the chaotic astral river. Which force do these two belong to? He didn't show off before, but he actually made it into the top 100. Someone was puzzled. I remember that they were two beautiful women. They were sisters and seemed to be from the righteous army. From the righteous army? However, the three of them did not act rashly because Lu Ming was too calm. He was so calm even when facing the three of them, which made them feel a little guilty. You didn't run when you saw us. You're very confident. One of the young men said. You're here to give me points, why should I escape? Lu Ming asked. Give you free points. You're really confident. I'm just afraid you don't have the ability. The other youth said. His divine power surged and a combat sword formed. Make your move. I'll give you the chance to make your move. Lu Ming said calmly. Arrogant. Let's kill him together. A young man coldly shouted. In an instant the three young men moved. 3 attacks were aimed at Lu Ming. It's not weak. It seems that after more than a month of fighting, those who can be left behind have some skills. As soon as the 3 of them attacked, Lu Ming could tell that the 3 young men were not weak. Although the divine power that the 3 of them controlled was only ordinary divine power, they had a deep understanding of the incomplete divine skill. They had reached the limit of the first stage and were not far from the second stage. However, compared to Lu Ming, he was still far from having such abilities. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. Lu Ming clenched his fist in the air and a long spear was formed. He then thrust it out. The 3 spear lights were aimed at the 3 young men. Each spear ray had 7 variations, making it impossible to guard against. When the spear radiance disappeared, a hole had appeared between the 3 young men's eyebrows. So powerful. This was the last thought of the three young men. Then with a bang their bodies turned into energy and dissipated. My points have actually increased by 236 points. Lu Ming's gaze flickered. Originally he had 88 points. However, after killing the three young men, his points suddenly became 324 points, an increase of 236 points. As expected, those who can stay until the end are all experts. Each of them has a lot of points. That's great. Lu Ming laughed. His figure flashed and he went to look for his next opponent. Not long after, Lu Ming discovered another young genius hiding in a house. Lu Ming attacked directly and killed the person in an instant. His points had become 367 and he was now in the top 2000. Chapter 2633 Experts, Distribution 1000 Spirit City. Look, Lu Ming's ranking has risen. He's rising so quickly. His score has also soared. He's already at 367 points. Also, his ranking has already charged into the top 2000. He's starting to exert his strength. He must have been delayed by something. I've risen again. I'm now more than 400 points. I'm ranked 1378. Some people from the chaotic astral river suddenly cried out. After all, Lu Ming had made it into the top 100 before and then stopped. However, many people in the chaotic astral river were still paying attention to Lu Ming. At that moment, Lu Ming's ranking suddenly soared and these people immediately cried out. Humph. Kong Ji and Situ Haonan also looked over. The moment they saw it, they both let out a cold humph and their expressions were extremely unhappy. It's only 1,000 or so. There's still a long way to go before the top 100. That's right. The further we go, the more experts will be left behind. Without Feng Er's talent, we'll be killed sooner or later, and our ranking will drop drastically. Kong Ji and Situ Haonan said unhappily. However, the moment Situ Haonan finished speaking, his expression changed drastically. Because in a certain area, Situ Xiao's ranking had suddenly dropped. Originally, Situ Xiao had already made it to the 300th place in that area. However, at this moment his ranking had dropped drastically, falling to the 500th place. There could only be one reason for him to drop so many ranks all of a sudden. He had been killed and his points had been halved. That was why he had dropped so badly. Ah, Situ Haonan, did you just say your son Situ Xiao? You're right. I have to say you really have a jinx's mouth. The ancestor of technique laughed heartily. He was extremely carefree. Fei Ming, Situ Haonan's chest heaved up and down and he almost vomited blood. Just now he had mocked Lu Ming and Situ Xiao was immediately killed. It matched his words too well. It was as if he was deliberately slapping his face. This coincidence made the other forces, leaders on the side, couldn't help but laugh out loud. Even Kong Jilian's body was twitching as he tried his best not to laugh. Situ Haonan's lips trembled in anger. The Cloud Peak Pavilion Master looked on coldly. In the chaotic astral river, there are close to 1,000 major and minor powers. It's normal for them to fight and kill each other. She was also happy to see such a situation. Only when the other powers were killing each other would her Yunfeng Pavilion be able to sit firmly as the overlord of the chaotic astral river. He has risen again. Lu Ming's ranking has risen again. He's so fast. The other party was overjoyed. He cupped his fists and turned to leave, disappearing without a trace in the blink of an eye. Lu Ming did not kill the other party. The other party's strength was average and he would not have many points. Even if he killed him, he would not gain many points. I don't know where these top experts are. It seems like I can only try my luck. Lu Ming muttered. Then he randomly chose a direction and left. Not long after, Lu Ming came to a wide street alone. Buzz. 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 All of a sudden, a group of people surrounded Lu Ming in a flash. There were more than 20 of them. Ah, it's you, kid. What a coincidence, what a coincidence. Now let's see how you die. One of them burst out laughing the moment he saw Lu Ming. What a coincidence. The corners of Lu Ming's lips curled into a cold smile. It was actually the Tiger Men. Moreover, the person who laughed just now was actually Hu Mao, the one who had declared that he would let all the Tiger clan kill Lu Ming. Kid, it seems like the heavens want you to touch me. Now kneel down and lick my shoes and I'll consider letting you die a quick death. Hu Mao extended a leg and said coldly. The other Tiger Men glared at Lu Ming coldly. Seems that you have quite a lot of points on you. Then your points are mine. Lu Ming could not be bothered with the tiger's fur and spoke indifferently. What? Hu Mao and the others were stunned, thinking that they had heard wrong. What did Lu Ming say? They wanted to steal their points? Is he crazy? A mere piece of trash from the chaotic astral river actually wants to take their points. If he's not crazy, what is he? It seems that this brat is not only stupid but also blindly arrogant. How sad. Since that's the case, I'll let him die miserably and let him know the consequences of offending my Tigerman race. Hu Mao said sinisterly. Leave it to me. One of the Tiger Clan's young men made a move. He waved his large hand and grabbed Lu Ming. In his opinion, Lu Ming was merely at the transformation void martial stage. Moreover, he came from a small place like the chaotic astral river. What kind of combat strength could he have? He could easily suppress Lu Ming with a flip of his hand. Chapter 2634 Ranking soars. Just as the tiger youth's palm was about to hit Lu Ming's fingers were like a long spear pointing out. A ray of spear light burst forth. It was extremely bright and fast. The body of the young man from the tiger tribe suddenly froze in midair. This was because the ski between his eyebrows had been pierced by Lu Ming's spear gleam and he had died on the spot. Bang! Then the body of the tiger youth exploded with a bang and dissipated into energy. Hu Mao and the others were all shocked. This was completely beyond their expectations. A mere transformation void martial artist from the chaotic astral river had actually killed a Heaven's Pride expert of the Tiger Clan with a single move. After the shock, it was anger. Brat, you dare to kill the people of my Tiger Clan? You're courting death. The tiger roared. You talk too much nonsense. Lu Ming said coldly. He clenched his fist and a long spear was formed. Whoosh, whoosh. Lu Ming could not be bothered to waste his breath and attacked directly. In an instant, a few terrifying spearlights burst out and killed the few Tiger Clan youths. Attack together. I want him to suffer a fate worse than death. The tiger roared. Roar. Roar. The young men of the Tiger Clan roared like tigers and their divine power condensed into all kinds of weapons that charged at Lu Ming. Good. Lu Ming let out a long howl and the long spear trembled. 7 changes appeared instantly and the spear's radiance was thrust out. Each of the spear's radiance contained 7 levels of power. These Tigermen youths could not withstand it at all. Boom. Some of them were pierced through the glabella by the spear radiance, while others were swept by the long spear and directly split open. The 20 or so Tigermen youths were like babies in Lu Ming's hands. They could not even withstand a single blow. Not all of these people controlled ordinary divine power. There were a few who controlled king-grade divine power. It was a pity that his understanding of the incomplete divine skill was so that it could not even withstand a single blow from Lu Ming. The Tigermen tribe had many experts. Other than peerless geniuses like Huya, there were also some other top experts. For example, Tiger Bone, one of the top 3 masters in the Dongqing area, was one of them. If Lu Ming stayed here, he might collide with the Tiger Bones. In the next few days, the Tigermen tribe did not appear. On the other hand, Lu Ming's cultivation attracted the attention of some other experts who wanted to kill him. However, they were all killed by Lu Ming. Lu Ming's ranking had increased a little. He was close to the 200th place. For 9 consecutive days, Lu Ming had attracted more than 10 young men and they all died at his hands. Lu Ming's reputation spread like this. In the Dongqing area district, everyone placed Lu Ming on the same level as the other 3 top experts. The news of Lu Ming's battle with the Tigermen tribe spread and attracted many people to watch. There were many young experts hiding in the hidden corners of some buildings in the area. They were looking at Lu Ming from afar. They were waiting for an opportunity. If Lu Ming really fought with the Tigermen tribe and both sides were injured, they would have a chance. A person like Lu Ming must have a shocking number of points. If they could kill Lu Ming, their points would skyrocket. Many people had this thought and hid in the dark. On the 11th day, Lu Ming was sitting cross-legged in the middle of the street, meditating on the incomplete divine skill with his eyes closed. At that moment he suddenly opened his eyes. In front of him, a figure was leaping from house to house at an astonishing speed. In the blink of an eye he was in front of Lu Ming. Buzz, buzz, buzz. With a flash, more than 30 young men from the Tiger tribe appeared on the street in front of Lu Ming. Lu Ming could see at a glance that one of them was Hu Mao. At that moment Hu Mao was looking at Lu Ming with a face full of hatred. Tiger Bone, it's him. It's this Art D who killed more than 20 of our Tigermen and even threatened to wait here. The tiger pointed at Lu Ming and roared. Bang! In front of the tiger fur, a young man with an especially burly figure stepped out. This person was one of the top 3 experts in the Dongqing area Tiger Bone. He was also one of the top 10 Heaven's favorites in the Tiger clan. You're Lu Ming? You're really gutsy daring to wait for us here? Tiger Bone said coldly. Someone's giving you free points, why not wait? Lu Ming asked. Chapter 2635 Annihilating the Tigermen Tribe Free Points? Huh. Hugu laughed out loud. After a few more laughs, his smile suddenly disappeared and he stared at Lu Ming with a cold gaze. During this period of time, some people have placed you on the same level as me and called you the 4th top expert in the Dongqing area. I'd like to see what you're capable of. After saying that, Tiger Bone stepped out. Bang! Bang! Every step he took caused the ground to rumble. Tiger Bone's body also swelled up and became extremely majestic. A halberd was formed in his hand with divine power. It was as tall as a person. Kill! Tiger Bone roared and his aura rose higher and higher. He continued to take steps and raised his aura to the maximum. Buzz! The halberd suddenly slashed down at Lu Ming with a thunderous momentum. Buzz! Lu Ming was also very direct. He swept his long spear out. The long spear and the halberd met in midair and a shocking boom rang out. Boom! 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 A terrifying power burst out from Tiger Bone's battle axe, which seemed to be able to split the mountains and the earth. This was the explosive power of an incomplete divine skill. However, Lu Ming's long spear burst out with 7 layers of power at the same time. The 7 layers of power overlapped and each layer was stronger than the previous. 7 layers of power gushed out, instantly crushing the power of the Tiger Bone halberd, and rushed towards the other party. Tiger Bone's expression changed drastically. He was forced to retreat more than 10 steps before he could stabilize himself. Your incomplete divine skill has already reached the 3rd level. How is that possible? Tiger Bone roared in shock. Just now, Lu Ming did not use all of his power of domination. He had used an incomplete divine skill. He had used the 3rd stage of his incomplete divine skill to defeat his opponent in one fell swoop. What? The 3rd level, how is it possible? How could he have cultivated an incomplete divine skill to the 3rd level? How long has it been? I've only cultivated to the 1st stage not long ago. Me too. Tiger Bone's words caused the other Tigermen youths to be extremely shocked. Although the difficulty of cultivating an incomplete divine skill was not as high as a complete divine skill, it was already very difficult for people at their level. Out of the 1 million people, a portion of them had not even reached the beginner level. They had not even cultivated to the 1st level. A large portion of them, even though they had learned the rudiments, were only at the 1st level. For example, Tiger Bone had cultivated the incomplete divine skill to the 2nd level. With his king-grade divine power, he had become one of the top 3 experts in the Dongqing area. At this moment, the Heaven's favorites who were hiding in the surrounding buildings were also scared out of their wits. Their eyes were wide open. It was a complete massacre, a one-sided massacre. At first, many people wanted to wait for Lu Ming and the Tigermen race to suffer heavy losses so that they could take advantage of the situation. However, they were now filled with fear. Pick up a bargain? Lu Ming did not consume much energy. They did not even dare to breathe loudly. They held their breaths for fear of being discovered by Lu Ming. So many points. At this moment, the badge on his chest was sending out a series of notifications. His points had skyrocketed and his ranking had also risen. Now his ranking had directly rushed up to the 51st place in the 20th region. I've finally returned to the top 100. Lu Ming smiled. Meanwhile, in Wanling City, the people of the chaotic astral river were also shocked. Look, Lu Ming's ranking is soaring. So fast, 137, 129, 98, 67. They gasped when they saw Lu Ming's ranking rising. In the end, Lu Ming's ranking was set at 51st place. 51st place. That's amazing. I never expected that Lu Ming would actually charge into the 51st place in the 20th region. As long as he maintains this ranking, he will definitely enter the top 100. That's right. I didn't expect so many geniuses to appear in the righteous heavenly army this time. This is too shocking. There was a lot of discussion around. The leaders of these forces looked at the ancestor of technique with envy. Kang Ji and Situ Haonan's faces were as ugly as they could be. The 20th region. Lu Ming was about to leave when he suddenly looked to his left. There was a black-robed young man with a pair of wings on his back. This was a winged man. The wings on his back flapped and he floated in the air, floating toward Lu Ming. One should know that one couldn't fly in this place, but this person was floating in the air with his wings. It's Deng Yu. It's Deng Yu. That's right, it's him. This battle has actually attracted Deng Yu. And NBSP, the people in hiding all around took in cold breaths. Chapter 2636 Decisive Battle with Deng Yu. The city they were in was extremely huge, like a small world. It was divided into 4 urban areas: north, south, east and west. There were a few top experts in each urban area. However, there was an expert in the north, south, east and west who was publicly acknowledged as the #1 expert. That person was Deng Yu. He was the #1 expert in this city, a top genius. At least in this city no one could match him. He had earned his reputation by killing. And now Deng Yu had appeared. Could it be that he wanted to fight Lu Ming? Many people revealed looks of anticipation. Lu Ming's abilities were also extremely shocking. Tiger Bone, one of the top experts in the Dongqing area, was completely crushed by Lu Ming. They really wanted to know who was stronger, Lu Ming or Deng Yu. You're very strong. I didn't expect that this city would have an expert like you. Deng Yu stopped and landed on a house. He looked at Lu Ming. Deng Yu. Lu Ming narrowed his eyes slightly. He had heard the human youth mention it before, and now that he saw Deng Yu he immediately thought of it. Not bad. Deng Yu nodded. He looked at Lu Ming with a strong fighting spirit in his eyes. I was planning to go to other cities and challenge experts, but it seems that there's no need for that now. The battle intent in Deng Yu's eyes grew stronger as he spoke. You want to fight? That's exactly what I want. Lu Ming also revealed his fighting spirit. No, you and I have a battle, but not now. Deng Yu shook his head. Not now. Lu Ming was puzzled. To be honest, you're very strong. I can't see through you at all. I don't have the confidence to fight you. Perhaps I will die in your hands. I don't have enough points now. If I lose half of my points, I'm not sure if I can make it into the top 100. So how about we have a battle? When the 3-month deadline is almost up, we'll fight here. How about it? To be honest, you're very strong. I can't see through you at all. I don't have the confidence to fight you. Perhaps I will die in your hands. I don't have enough points now. If I lose half of my points, I'm not sure if I can make it into the top 100. So how about we have a battle? When the 3-month deadline is almost up, we'll fight here. How about it? Deng Yu said. All right. Lu Ming did not hesitate and nodded in agreement. He understood Deng Yu's thoughts. If he was killed by Lu Ming now, his points would be reduced by half. He was not confident that he could steadily enter the top 100. Therefore, during this period of time he would go and obtain more points. When he had enough points, even if his points were halved, he could still firmly enter the top 100. There were a total of 36 swords, and their sword Qi soared into the sky. Fight. A long spear appeared in Lu Ming's palm. Bang. Lu Ming took a step forward and charged toward Deng Yu as one with his spear. Go. Deng Yu waved his hand. 36 combat swords formed a strange combination and continuously stabbed at Lu Ming. Boom. 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 Lu Ming's long spear and Deng Yu's combat sword kept colliding with each other, and the force was overflowing. In the blink of an eye, the two of them had exchanged dozens of moves. This Deng Yu is not weak. Lu Ming thought to himself. He could sense Deng Yu's overall combat strength as soon as they exchanged blows. The divine power that Deng Yu controlled was also king-grade divine power, but it was much stronger than the average king-grade divine power. Shin power of the same level also had differences in strength. Some of them were very different in power. For example, Tong Shi Er and Kong Long both controlled king-grade divine power, but Tong Shi Er's king-grade divine power was stronger than Kong Long's by a level. This Deng Yu was also the same. His king-grade divine power was not weaker than Tong Shi Er's and was even stronger. Moreover, his incomplete divine skill had also reached the peak of the second stage. His battle sense was also very strong. In terms of overall combat strength, he was much stronger than Tiger Bone. No wonder he could become the #1 expert in this city. Amazing, amazing again. After exchanging dozens of moves, the fighting spirit in Deng Yu's eyes grew stronger and stronger. He waved his hands and sword light surged. 36 combat swords continuously rushed toward Lu Ming. Each attack was shockingly powerful and unpredictable. It seems like I need to increase the power of the ruler's power. Lu Ming smiled faintly. And NBSP, when he had fought with others before, he had not used all of his ruler power. What he had used had only been the power of ordinary divine power. At this moment he had used his power of domination to unleash a power equivalent to king-grade divine power. Instantly his combat strength increased by a notch. The spear's radiance surged and swept away Deng Ye's sword radiance. "Let's end this," Lu Ming muttered. The long spear trembled and turned into a flash of spear radiance as fast as lightning. It was like a fairy from beyond the heavens, shattering the void. Whoosh! The spear radiance burst forth with 7 layers of energy, and the remaining sword radiance of Deng Yu was completely destroyed. In the next moment the spear radiance pierced through Deng Ye's chest. Deng Ye's body stiffened in the air. "Amazing, amazing. I'm completely convinced of my defeat." Deng Yu smiled. Then his body turned into energy and disappeared with a bang.